What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video, feeling quite a bit better. I had the ever-living crap kicked out of me this last week by whatever sickness that was, so I apologize for the compilation videos, but I'm back now. And I've got a story time that was sent in to me that I think you guys are going to love about this person's college roommate who has to have reached like massive levels of cringe. We've talked about a lot of bad roommates on this channel, but as you can tell from the title, he just thought showering was optional. It was more for losers than this guy. And I feel like basic hygiene should be basic, but for this guy's roommate, it just went right over his head. It was like it was the most complicated concept he could have ever thought of. Why would I want to smell good? From what I understand, the animal kingdom works like this. The more the ladies can smell your pheromones, the better. Yeah, maybe if we were still cavemen, bro, but these days I don't think BO is gonna be helping you out if you're trying to pick up the ladies. Anyways, I just thought it would be funny, so without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the person who sent this to me was a little bit confused when they got to college, and for the first 3 days they were there and staying in their dorm room, they hadn't met their roommate yet. Everybody else in the dorm, there was multiple rooms to a dorm and each person shared their room type of situation. Everyone else had their roommates there, they were starting to get to know each other, he had made friends with some of the people in his suite. But his roommate wasn't there yet. And one day he comes back from class and he sees this dude moving all of the stuff from his side of the room to the other side of the room and had a bunch of stuff that was being unpacked where his stuff used to be. And he's immediately confused because he just assumed that when this roommate got here, he was going to take the open desk and the open bed. So coming back to this guy going through his stuff and moving it all was a weird first impression. And so he asks him, hey man, what are you doing? Can you not go through all my stuff and touch it? And the guy looks at him, almost annoyed by his presence, and is like, I don't sleep on the right side of the room, okay? I can't believe you would have thought that I would have let you sleep on this side. And right off the bat, he's not too enthusiastic about this guy being his roommate, and he says something to him well, if you would have been here on the first day, we probably could have figured that out, but you've been missing for the first 4 days of school. And his roommate looks at him and is like, is there going to be a problem for my attendance? And of course he's like, no, I'm not trying to be your mom. I don't care if you go to school, but it's just a little rude to come in and start moving all my stuff around and saying, you can't believe I thought I was going to have that side of the room because I didn't know who my roommate was going to be. And whatever, his roommate kind of looks him up and down very judgmentally and says, sorry, well, I'm going to be on this side of the room. And off rip, he kind of gets the vibe that this guy is going to be very, very bossy. That's probably the worst thing you could have in a roommate is someone that just thinks they're smarter than you and they should be in charge of everything. But whatever, he's trying not to make it too dramatic, so he just starts moving his stuff from his side of the room to the other. It's not that he wanted to, he just thought maybe they got off on the wrong foot. It was the first time they had met. So fine, he moves his stuff. And the entire time he's moving his stuff from that side of the room to the other side of the room, he's trying to talk to this guy. They're going to be roommates. They're going to live together. You might as well try to see if you have anything in common. And it's like pulling teeth without anesthetic, bro. This guy is having none of it. He's just being super judgmental. Every time that the person who sent this to me would say something about themselves, he was like, yeah, that's not what I'm into. Sorry, I'm a little more sophisticated than that. Just being insanely rude. And then at the end of the day, after they're moving all their stuff around, he says something about how he's going to design a chore chart for the dorm. And there was 8 people in the dorm, but 4 rooms to the dorm, if that makes sense, their little apartment suite thing. So he tells everyone that he's going to set up the chore chart just so they can divide chores and whatnot. And they hadn't done that yet, and he's like, all right, the guy's going to be bossy, but if he gets us organized and makes a chore chart that works for everybody, more power to him, it makes our life a little easier. So he's thinking, I might have been too hard on the guy, it was probably just a weird first impression, he might not just be sociable, but at least he's organized. And then the entire suite, the little apartment, gets a taste for just how bossy this guy was going to be and why he was so insistent on planning the chore chart himself. When they sit down and start going over this, wouldn't it be super bizarre that the person who made it isn't on it at all? It's just everyone else doing all the dishes and all the vacuuming and all the cleaning and all the stuff that sucks. And he's just got absolutely no chores. And it's obvious to everybody looking at it that he's not on it at all. It's not like they're idiots. So they pointed out to him, they're like, well, why do you think that you have to do no chores? And he does the scoff. You know the scoff when someone just can't believe how stupid what they just heard was? He does that and says, well, obviously, I put in all the hard work making the chart, so it would be unfair for me to have to do the chores too. Is that how it works? You just have to make the chart and you don't have to do any of the work? Like, so if I'm a boss, as long as I tell my employees to show up to work, I don't have to do anything other than that? That's sweet. Obviously, all of his roommates that share this apartment with him are not down for that, though, and they start telling him, like, yeah, that's not gonna work. You're gonna have to redesign this. Everyone's gotta do equal work. We're not gonna be your butlers and just pick up after you. And if you really think making the chart was that hard, then we'll make one without you. Like, don't worry. And as soon as they said they were going to make a chart without him, he starts getting really pissed off, saying that there's no way that they were smart enough to make a chart that was as good as his. And I love how he loves his chart because he doesn't have to do any of the work, you know? He's like, you will never make a chart as good as mine. Yeah, maybe for you because you don't have to do any of the work, but I guarantee you they're probably able to make a more fair chart. And it also just goes to show that he thought his roommates were stupid. Like, you guys are all in college. I'm pretty sure you're all capable of making a chore chart. I don't think that's some crazy highbrow. Oh, you don't even get to that until you've got your master's degree. But he starts getting really mad at them, saying that they're not going to change the chart. He doesn't understand why he was going to have to do any chores. Making the chart should have been more than fair enough. And he goes over, sticks it on the fridge, walks into his room and closes the door. And I don't know if in his mind that meant conversation over. Everyone just had to go with what he said because he closed the door. So they just go up and they take the schedule down. They make their own chore chart that they put up. And he doesn't say anything about it, so they assume that he had just decided to let it go and go along with the new chore chart. And for a little bit, everything kind of goes back to normal. But that's the first impression. He doesn't want to do anything. He expects everybody else to do the hard work. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. And you would think if he's got that type of attitude, if he's going to be so insistent on a chore chart and cleanliness and making sure everything's done the right way, that he would be a neat freak. You would think that this guy's side of the room would be spotless. He would be out there like Mr. Clean himself with a magic eraser every single day from noon to 5 p.m. trying to clean stuff. But no, for someone that was so bossy and insistent on everyone else being clean, the guy was an absolute slob. Over that next week, he just like absolutely trashed his side of the room. I'm talking about piles of like food bags, you know? He would go down to the food court, get food, bring it back, and instead of throwing away the leftover trash, he would just put it all into the bag and then set the bag and stack them up. And it's not like, you know, 1 or 2 bags. I'm talking 15, 16 bags that still have food in them, just rotting away because he didn't feel like throwing it away. And it gets so bad that the bags start falling over onto the person who sent this to me's side of the room, and the smell is overwhelming. There's like flies everywhere. And that's not the only mess. He also decided to take that approach with his dirty clothes. And I feel like everyone's been in like that type of mindset before where you just throw your clothes on the ground. But if you have a roommate, you really can't do that, and eventually you gotta pick it all up, right? This guy, just weeks of just clothes on the ground. And it was almost like he was wearing more clothes a day than he even should have, because over the course of a week, it looked like there was weeks of clothes on the ground. He didn't even know where all the clothes were coming from. It was just dirty clothes, and so that smell starts to stack up. I don't know if you guys will know what smell I'm going to try to describe, but you know when it just starts to smell stale? Like the entire room just starts to smell like it hasn't had any freshness in months. That's what was going on. Febreze probably could have used their room for a commercial when, like, they put the blindfolds on, they walk into a disgusting room. Do you smell anything? No. See? The power of Febreze. So he decides that he's going to ask him to pick up. He remembers the freak out he has over the chore chart, but it's getting bad. The smell's getting overwhelming. So he's like, listen, man, our room's getting really gross. I don't feel comfortable bringing people over. The smell's starting to get too much for me. Like, I can't even do my homework because my eyes are watering when I come back from class. And he looks at him and completely seriously goes, well, why would I clean up? Isn't the maid going to come do it? Yeah, not how college dorms work, buddy. I don't think the maid is on staff. So he starts explaining to him that college dorms don't have a maid. And when he's explaining that there is no maid, the look on the kid's face is like he started speaking another language. Imagine you had like a magic device in your ear that automatically translated everything, but it died halfway through a conversation with someone speaking Dutch, and you just started hearing something you don't get. Like, that's the look on this guy's face. What do you mean there's no maid? Like, what do you mean that there's no maid that's gonna come clean up our stuff? Are we supposed to clean stuff up ourselves? Like, that's what we're supposed to do? And he's completely serious when he says that. He's shocked at the fact that he might have to clean up his own room. He had never even thought about this before. The fact that one day his room's not going to just magically be clean. This guy's parents did him so dirty, he didn't even understand how his house got clean. Like, he really thought there was just some magic Harry Potter technique that just comes and picks stuff up. Everybody's just got a maid. And so when he says, what, we're just supposed to pick it up ourselves, the person who sent this to me kind of confirms it. Like, yeah, we have to pick it up ourselves. No one's going to clean up after us. And he starts going off about how he's never done that before and he doesn't even know how to start. What do you mean you've never picked up after yourself before? Like, not even once? Not once ever? Even if you have a maid, let's say you're loaded. I feel like if you never pick up anything, you're just really mean to your maid. You're talking never. You just always make them pick it up. If you drop your toothbrush while you're brushing your teeth, I don't even know how often that happens. I've never done that now that I'm thinking about it, but just rock with me here. Do you just scream at your maid to come get it for you? Like, you've never cleaned anything yourself? And he's just kind of going off about how he doesn't know what to do. And the subscriber who sent this to me is like, yeah, well, I know you don't know what to do, but we got to do something because the room's starting to smell. Like, it's getting really bad. We have to clean it. And his roommate looks at him and just goes, well, I don't want to. So if you want it clean, then you go ahead and clean it. Huh? Wait, what do you mean? You go ahead and clean it. It's not his mess. He had nothing to do with making this mess and putting all this food here. That was all you. Why is it on him to just magically have to be the one to clean it? And he starts arguing with his roommate about, like, that's not fair. You have to clean your mess. And his roommate straight up just goes, no, it's going to bug you more than it bugs me, so I'm just going to wait it out. He was going full war of attrition, bro. Was just straight up hoping to outgross him. Just live in this filth to the point where his roommate got so tired of it, he was willing to clean it up so that way he didn't have to. And I feel like that's a level of petty that no one should hope to achieve. Everybody, needs to stand up for themselves a little bit sometimes. But if you're willing to let yourself live in filth just to, like, get one over on somebody, that's too much dedication. And as he's explaining this, the person who sent this to me is shocked because they just can't believe anyone would have that mindset of like, no, I'm cool living in a hoarder house as long as I don't have to clean it. I'll live in it until someone else does. And what's crazier is he goes through with it, dude. He just increases the grossness. Now he's leaving even more food in the bag, so the smell's getting worse, It's getting really, really gross in the room, and he just doesn't care. It's like it doesn't faze him, and I don't know how you could do that. I've let my room get pretty bad before, but, like, I feel like once there's rotting food and flies and you're just cool with it, it's too far. It's borderline chemical warfare at this point. I feel like this is against the law. Oh, come on. You can't, like, make your roommate have to deal with this because you don't want to clean it up. And so for the next week after that, he's just hoping one day that his roommate's going to have to break. He doesn't want to have to clean it all, but at the same time, it's getting to the point where he's considering cleaning it because he just can't stay there. He literally started staying at one of his friends he had made, like, at their dorm, and when he wasn't able to stay there, he was just sleeping in the couch in the living room of their apartment. He literally could not stand being in his room anymore. It got that bad. And on top of that, now he just stops bathing altogether. So you got the trash, you got the clothes. He's just not bathing at all. So he's starting to reek. And he was an athlete. Not for like a really important sport at the school, but it doesn't matter. He's doing regular physical activity, coming back, taking off the sweaty clothes, throwing them on the ground, not washing them, not washing himself. So it just starts getting disgusting. And once he stops showering and like the BO gets so overwhelming that the entirety of the apartment is starting to smell like BO, all of the roommates decide to sit him down and be like, dude, you gotta take a shower. Like, this is getting out of control. You're approaching a week without showering. You're working out every day. It's too much. The trash is already disgusting. The clothes are gross, but like you not taking care of your hygiene at all is too far. And instead of being like, okay, you guys are right, I feel gross, I haven't showered in a while, I was just trying to outgross my roommate, he starts getting defensive about it, being like, well, 7,000 years ago we never showered. That's correct, man. That's true, because showers didn't exist. I promise you, if 7,000 years ago there was a really easy way for people to take like a long hot shower, they would have done it. For sure. It's dope. It just wasn't an option. And even then, it's not 7,000 years ago anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. We can look at that and go, yep, that's how they lived back then. Good thing we don't have to do that anymore. It's not the medieval ages, dude. We're not fighting the bubonic plague and we go take a bath once a year in the river, right? Like, there's no reason to be doing that anymore. And he starts going off on this rant about how real alpha males don't have to bathe because his scent was natural and his natural scent was going to attract strong people only. And if people weren't able to handle the alpha male scent, then it just meant that they weren't alpha males. Which is a crazy conclusion to jump to. You didn't shower for a week, so you're an alpha male. And people that don't like the smell of you are not alpha males. All right, man, I don't understand how you're connecting these dots. I don't understand where on the chart these things all got connected, but that's what he's screaming at everybody, is that they don't have to bathe because he's an alpha male. And if they don't like it, they're just admitting that they're weak. Like, I don't think it's weak to say you don't like smelling bad. Hey, man, do you wear deodorant? Oh, you're so weak, bro. What is that? Weak sauce. You got some weak armpits. You're putting deodorant on those bad boys? I don't think anyone would like that. 7-day-old BO is not charming. It doesn't make people think that you're dominant, bro. It just makes people think that you're weird for not showering at all. And his rant culminates about how they shower, and obviously, look at them. If they shower and that's how they are, then showering is for losers. Hey, man, you know what they say, hygiene's for losers. If you've ever taken a shower before, this guy thinks you suck. Just a really weird thing to, like, pick to say people are a loser about, you know? Like, hey, oh, you shower, loser? It's just such a normal thing. Is anyone not a loser other than this guy? Is this like a movement that I've missed out on? I don't really pay attention to the internet much anymore. I just kind of make my stories. But like, is there a movement of people just saying that showering is bad? I missed that one. If you're a part of that movement, don't be. Just take a shower. But the roommates decide that they're not going to let him keep doing that. So they're going to go to the housing administration and talk to them about it. And it's not like they wanted to snitch. They didn't want to get the guy in trouble, but what? You're going to blame them for going and telling that, like, this roommate is just letting food rot, not showering, doesn't care, screaming at his roommates. So he goes to the housing office and they start explaining the situation. And it's not that they don't believe that there's a roommate that's being annoying. But I'm sure when you work at a housing office at a college, people come in complaining about their roommates, and maybe they make it sound way worse than it is. I'm sure that happens. So they're hearing this and they're like, okay, sure, all right, we'll come check it out. And let's be honest, would you believe it? Your job is dealing with this stuff all the time. Somebody comes in saying a guy's letting food rot and refuses to shower to prove to his roommates that he's more alpha than them. So they come to look, and the lady walks into the apartment, and she's like, it just smells like a boys' dorm room. And they start going towards their room where all the mess was, and you can tell her face is getting more and more pale. And the door opens, and the lady in charge of the housing department gets a whiff of the smell coming out of the room, straight up turns around, runs to the bathroom, and starts dry heaving into the toilet. And you know you've reached a level of gross that is pretty bad if people are taking a whiff of your room and then almost having to vomit. Everyone in the apartment had gone, like, not nose blind to it, but not vomiting over it because they had smelt it before. But the fact that it was bad enough to make most people gag opened their eyes to just how bad it had gotten too. And so they go into the room and the roommate's gone. And they don't know where he went, but there's a note on his desk saying, like, you guys can clean this up. I'm leaving. You know, it was almost like when he realized that they were going to the office to report him, he knew they were probably going to kick him out anyway, so he decided to get the jump and leave. All of this for a stupid mind game to try to make his roommate clean up, and now he had to, like, abandon his dorm room. And so the staff starts looking at everything, and they can't believe the state of it. And what's crazier is it's like half the room. The person that sent this into me, their room had obviously been, like, affected, but there's not trash everywhere. It's not that bad. So just the room is horrible. They end up having to move this guy out of that apartment because the room was so bad. They had to rip everything out and do the carpet, the walls, everything. It was so gross. And so he got moved into a new apartment, and his old roommate definitely was no longer allowed to stay at school housing and had to pay for the entire repair. Thankfully, the housing people were super apologetic. They were like, we have never seen a dorm room that bad. We're so sorry about that experience. And they gave him a discount on his housing for the rest of the year. And yeah, overall, man, I feel like that level of petty is not something you want. And just shower, bro. I don't understand why people are obsessed with, like, being alpha. Like, it's just kind of weird to me, dude. Just, like, exist. I don't know why you need to care what other people think you are. You get what I'm saying, but it's especially not quote-unquote alpha to not shower, bro. Just shower. Just shower. Alpha, beta male, data male, whatever, gamma male, I don't care. Just shower. I don't feel like this guy really won, though. I feel like having to pay for the repairs and the room and board in a room you're not allowed to stay in anymore is not worth it, even if you technically won the petty off and grossed out your roommates to the point where they had to go snitch on you. That was definitely a pretty gross roommate, though. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. I post videos like this really often, so you should be sure to subscribe and turn on noties if you haven't already. And if you like these, but you'd rather listen to the audio version offline or whatever, I do post them on Spotify. You can find that link down below. And yeah, on that note, guys, that'll really do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Go clean your room. And hopefully I'll see you guys all next time with another video. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Still feeling a little bit sick, just kind of want to sleep, rest, get some time to be feeling better. So I got another compilation for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoy it. Press the like button if you do, and I'll see you guys soon. Alright, so this story takes place when I was probably like 16 years old, but before I had my license, so like a fresh 16, a baby-faced man. And I was at a friend's house, and we were just kind of hanging out, and he couldn't drive either, so me and a couple of us just decided to start walking around his neighborhood. He lived in a place that had some stuff, like, just a couple streets down, so we thought it would be more fun than just sitting in his room doing nothing, so we just kind of started walking about, and we had no real plans. We were just goofing off, and because we were walking with no real goal or aim of where we were supposed to be going, we ended up at this convenience store that was a couple streets away from his house, and we spent a little bit of time in there goofing off, just bought some sodas and some chips, and then ended up like just sitting on the curb outside talking about nothing, you know, just kind of sitting there being like, wow, it's really hot outside, this sucks, that type of vibe. But as we're standing there talking, doing our thing outside of this convenience store, there's this group of emo kids that walks up, and I only know that it's a group of emo kids because they got the whole, you know, the black bowl cut going on. They're wearing nothing but the freshest, tightest skinny jeans money can buy. Just going straight up emo to the max. As a former emo kid, you know, I just can kind of tell when someone's got that vibe to them. But they're walking up to the store, and they're kind of talking amongst themselves, and I'm not trying to overhear, but they're talking loudly, and they're like, we'll just ask these guys. And we all kind of look at each other like, okay, well, what are they going to ask us? This will be interesting. And they walk up to us and say, hey, do you guys have any money? And we did have some money on us, obviously. We had just bought sodas and chips, but I'm not a big fan of, like, giving strangers money, especially in a situation where you're, like, the exact same age as me and you just walked up saying you were going to ask us for money. I don't know. I didn't really feel like giving them any money, and it's my money. I want to buy myself a soda. And we weren't trying to be rude. It's not like we said no in a mean way. We just said, oh, no, we spent it all that we had. Sorry, I don't have any cash on me. Like, that type of stuff. Just trying to be polite about it. And I've never been walking around asking someone for money, but usually I would assume that if you ask someone and they say, hey, I just don't have any cash on me, you would just let it go and walk away. Like, that's the pretty normal thing to do in this situation. But they were like, well, we know that you guys have money because otherwise how did you buy the soda and chips? And so we tell them what we had already told them, which was like, oh yeah, we only brought enough money for this. We don't have any more. And the guy's just like, I don't believe you. And listen, I don't really care if you believe me, even if you catch me in a lie because I have $1 in my pocket. I'm still not going to give it to you. If anything, it'll just make it a little bit awkward because now you'll know that I'm denying to give you $1, and that's just a weird situation. So you can call me out and get mad all you want. Even if I have money, I'm not going to give it to you. And so me and my friends are just like, look, dude, we don't have any, but we'll just go. And we get up and we starting to walk back to his house. And we get about a street away, and it's not like we're looking over our shoulder all paranoid. We had no reason to think that anyone would be following us. But when I turn around and look back, I'm instantly a little bit thrown off because I see that they're following us. And like maybe they're just walking down the road that way, but I let my friends know that just so you guys know, that group of people that was just asking us for money and said that we have some is now following us. So we should just be aware. And my friend who lives in the neighborhood was like, all right, well, I know where we're going. So we're going to take this way through this neighborhood and we're going to do 4 rights in a row. And for those of you that don't know, if you ever think someone is following you
somewhere. If you do 4 rights in a row and they're still behind you, they are 100% following you because you just went in a big circle. So it's just a convenient little trick you can do if you ever get a vibe that someone's like, following you around 4 rights. If they're still on you, yeah, they're following you, because otherwise they're just driving in circles the exact same way you are, or walking that way, whatever. So we start going and we pick up the pace a little bit, and sure enough, they're staying far enough back where like we can't talk to them, but close enough where they can see where we're going. And we come around the corner on the 4th right turn and start walking up the road. And the second we see them come around the corner and keep following us, now we know that they're following us. Like, it's not even a question now because they've literally gone in one big circle with us. So at that point, we start thinking about how fast we could get to his house. So we start thinking that it's only like 2-3 roads away and we could run, but at the same time, we didn't want them to see where he lives, so we were trying to figure out if we could beat them there before they could see us get into the house. And up on the road, up ahead, was a little alleyway that we could cut through to get to his house faster. And so my friend who lived in the neighborhood is like, okay, we're going to cut through this way and we'll get to the house quicker. And I don't really know where I am. I trust my friend, obviously, so we start going into this alleyway. And as we're walking down the alleyway, about halfway through, like half of the group of emo kids starts coming down towards us. And so we turn around and start trying to go back the other way, and the other half of the group starts coming down that way. And so now we're kind of sandwiched in between. We're in a pickle, if you've ever watched baseball, you know. Half the group coming this way, half the group coming that way. So there was 4 of us, me, my friend, and our other 2 friends. So we are kind of just like, all right, well, we were trying to avoid them, but that didn't work out. So we're just kind of preparing to have to, like, I don't know, either give up our stuff or get out of this situation somehow. I would never advocate for violence. As a responsible YouTuber who's very mature, I would never. That being said, like, if these guys are about to jump us, we're going to do what we have to do. Like, what do you expect me to do in this situation? And this is basically the only opportunity that I'm ever going to take to get involved, bro, is when I absolutely have to. Like, most people could just blow a very strong gust of wind out of their lungs and I would fall over. But my hands are kind of tied if I'm, like, cornered in between 2 groups of people. There's really not much to do. And thankfully, my friends were a little bit bigger than me at the time. They weren't as tall, but, like, they were built. And so they start walking in, and my friend who lives in the neighborhood just says out loud, he's like, we don't want any trouble, but like, just leave us alone. And the guy who had asked us for money says, well, are you going to give us some money now? And my friend obviously says, no, we're not going to give you any money. Why would we do that? And he tries to answer the question. And I don't know why people do this, bro. Like, you kind of have to be stupid if you're asking someone a question that they're obviously going to say no to. And they go, no, why would I do that? And you're like, well, actually, you should give us money. But he starts trying to say that, like, obviously we had more money because we had bought a soda and chips, so we should give it to him. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess technically, on a very technical level, I had more money because I bought a soda. But really, you think someone buying like a $1 soda from the gas station just makes them obligated to hand over the money that you want? Whoa, 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 man. You're obligated to give me that chunk of change because you bought a Dr. Pepper over there. I don't see my Dr. Pepper, so I'm going to garnish your wages from now on. I just don't think those are very fair terms and conditions. Anyways, this emo kid who is not very intimidating, like, I don't want to roast him. He's not very tall, not very tough, kind of built like me, a little bit like a string bean. So he says, well, if you're not going to give it to me, then I guess I'm going to take it, which is just a threat. I don't know if he meant it to be a threat, but that's just a threat. You're saying you're going to rob us. And the other kids that are hanging out with him are like, wait, what? Like, even they're a little bit confused. And he says, yeah, you're going to give me the cash. And he tries to put his hand into my friend's pocket to, like, take his wallet out, take the cash or whatever. And the second he gets his hand close, my friend grabs his wrist and is like, yo, you're not going to do that. You're not taking anything from us. And this guy at this point probably should have rethought it. My friend was a bigger dude, literally just like one of those guys that you just would not choose to fight if he was in a lineup of people and you had to pick someone to fight. You just wouldn't choose him. I mean, maybe some people would. They like a challenge or whatever. It's not someone I would pick to get in an altercation with. But the guy says, shut up, and tries to shove his hand into his pocket. And at that point, my friend takes his wrist and just yanks down almost like he's turning on a lamp very aggressively, as if the light lighting system in his house has just been swearing at him, insulting him. He's not taking any of this. He's yanking this lamp on. So he just pulls the kid's wrist, and it doesn't break or anything. The kid just like goes down really hard. I don't even know how to explain how he fell. It was like he fell to his knees first and then just dropped onto his face. And so he falls onto the ground, and my friend's like, "Don't touch me." And all of his friends run up and start picking him up, and they're like, "Dude, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that?" And my friend points out that he was literally trying to take his wallet out of his pocket. What did you expect to happen? And I don't know why there's so many people like this these days, bro. Why would you hit him? You didn't have to hit him. He was just trying to rob you. Like, okay, say that sentence out loud. Violence is never the answer. I'm not saying you should hit people, but if someone's robbing you and you 100% can beat them in a fight, you're probably gonna fight back. I don't know why you would just roll over and take it. But now they start crowding around him. So me and the other people that are hanging out with my friend who had like yanked on his wrist, we start getting in between them, and we're like, whoa, 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 back up. Your friend started this. He was trying to rob our friend. Like, let's not get it twisted. And now the kid gets back up off the ground, and he's probably really embarrassed because here he was trying to be Mr. Tough Guy in front of his group of friends. Like, oh, they're gonna give us the money. He ate it, but he starts trying to reach for his pocket again, but angrily, like not very strategically. You know when someone's tilted and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna get it. He just keeps trying to reach for the wallet, and my friend keeps backing up, and now the entire group's coming at us. So not only had they trapped us in this alleyway, but now they're literally pushing us up, against the wall in this alleyway. And at that point, it's just both groups yelling at each other. We're yelling at them to back up. He's yelling at us to give us the money. His friends are just kind of yelling random stuff like, screw you, man, because I don't think they really wanted to take the wallet, but they were also trying to back him up. Which, listen, bro, you're a wimp if you're gonna get that peer pressured. If you're ever hanging out with your friends and they say, hey, let's go rob someone, you should say no. Like, you should have the balls to tell them that that's not cool and they shouldn't do it. And if you're gonna basically back up your friend while he's trying to rob someone, then you're just complicit in helping him try to rob someone. Like, even if you're not literally telling me to give you the wallet, you're helping him try to do it. But whatever, we keep telling them to back up, and finally he goes for the wallet one more time. And this time when he reaches in, my friend doesn't just grab his wrist and pushes it away, he punches him. Which, at this point, keep in mind, he's literally tried to shove his hand into his pocket multiple times. We're backed up against the wall. He's already proven he's stronger. So he just hits him with a little bit of a jab. And the jab catches him just right on the chin. And I'll never forget the way the kid's head like snapped back as if, I don't even know, dude, as if he had like taken a rubber band and just kind of smacked himself in the face with it. And he goes, ah! Like, that's the only noise he made. No ow, anything. And he just starts backing up. And listen, if you're going to corner people in an alleyway and try to take their stuff, you got to be prepared to get punched in the face. But the fact that once he got punched in the face, he just started backing up and going, ah, like literally showed us that he had no intentions on us actually putting up a fight. He just thought that cornering us in an alleyway would make us just give it all up. And listen, we're not Batman's parents, bro. I shouldn't say we. I guess I haven't really done anything at this point, you know, but like my friend is not Batman's parent. And his friends start freaking out as soon as he gets punched in the face. They're like, dude, why are you trying to start a fight? Why are you trying to start a fight? And now all four of us are just screaming at them, being like, you're saying that we're trying to start a fight? Just leave. Like, get out of here. Get out of here. And now they're acting all tough, and so they start getting up in our face, and we're just kind of face to face now. And one of them shoves another one of my friends, and at that point, it just kicks off. People are just shoving each other. There's punches flying everywhere. Everything's going crazy. I got punched in the back of the head insanely hard. Hey, I'm not saying I would have preferred to see it coming, but I'm just saying nothing catches you off guard like being in the middle of a shoving match and just getting punched in the back of the head. Ow, that hurt. You know, I'm like turning around. Who's that? Come on, guys, raise your hand. But as this all is happening, we must have been really loud. It's a bunch of people fighting in an alleyway. It's not like it would be a very quiet thing because the lady whose house we were like fighting on the back fence of, we didn't even know it was a house. There was just kind of like this wooden fence. We start hearing screaming from the other side of the fence being like, stop it, stop it, stop it. And everyone's all confused, but a few of the emo kids stop. And as soon as they stop hitting us, a couple of my friends just shove them. And they were, once again, bigger than me, so their shove actually does something, like they fall over. My shove probably would have just made them move a little bit back, like, oh, wow, that was annoying. But my friends shove them, and a few of them fall down. And at that point, my friend, who had the wallet that the guy had been trying to be stealing, just goes, run! and we start running down the alleyway. Whatever old lady that was that came out into her backyard and was like, hey guys, stop it. Thank you for doing that. I don't know why they stopped trying to beat us up when you did it, but it gave us a chance to get out of there. We were outnumbered, you know? We were holding our own, but it was a matter of time till we got overrun type of thing. Anyways, we run out of the alley and we're like following my friend who lives in this neighborhood, and he's going right, left, through this alley, through that way, another left, go back around, do 6 jumping jacks to open a private wall, like whatever, man. We're just following him the best we can. And every like 50 feet, I'm looking back and they're following us and they're running after us and we're still zigging and zagging. And finally, like, I'm the last person in this group, and they go around this corner and take a left. I hook the corner, take a left, and I'm running down the road, and I'm confused because all my friends are gone. Like, I was probably 10 feet behind them, and now they're missing. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to hope for the best. It looks like I've just got to do the best run that I can, because if they catch me alone, that would really suck. Then I was kind of pissed off at my friends for leaving me. Like, I don't know if it was their plan or not, but in that exact moment, I'm like, thank you. There are 7 people chasing us, and you guys ditch me. I'm the smallest one out of anyone that had the odds to win this fight. It's not me. You know, you don't leave the runt of the litter to fight the wolf pack. That would just be a little mean. But as I'm running down the street, I run past this power box, and I feel someone just grab me and yank me behind. And I like freak out for a second, and I feel a hand go over my mouth, and I look, and it's my friends, and they have their fingers over their lips like, shut up. So I kind of get the hint, and I calm down, and we're all breathing a little bit heavy, but we're hiding behind this power box right after you hang a left. And we can feel, or hear, sorry, not feel. I mean, they weren't that crazy. Their footsteps coming, like we have dead silence on in a Call of Duty game. Like we can hear them coming. We hear them take the same left that we took to come down this road, and they start running. And I just so happen to have like a little bit of vision, and I see the first person run past the electrical box, and I like pull my face back. You know the meme of Homer Simpson sucking himself into the bush when he finds out something? That was basically what I had going on. I was just trying to hide as fast as possible, but we hear them sprinting by, and we hear them get to the end of the street, hear them run back up the street halfway, and they're like, where did they go? Does anyone know where they went? And everyone's yelling, no, we have no clue. And we're just sitting behind this electrical box like, please don't look back here, please don't look back here, please don't look back here. I guess it would have been a pretty easy way to defend because there was only 2 ways in, but still, we obviously just wanted them to leave. We were hiding for a reason. It's not because we wanted to keep this going. Alright guys, I'm gonna interrupt the video for just 1 second. On screen now is a gift card. I give one of these away in every video, so if you like free money, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, and press the like button if you've made it this far into the video. I mean, it's almost done, so you might as well. I mean, come on. Anyways, we can hear them talking because they're like on the other side of this electrical box, and they're talking about how they're gonna split up and they're gonna find us and da-da-da-da-da, and they go this way and they'll go that way, and a few of them will stay here, and we hear them split up. And we guess by the amount of voices that we're hearing that there's like 3 people out there. And so we decide that now that we've got them outnumbered, we'll leave. We don't want to go out there and beat them up or anything. We just want to go. We just knew that if they were all there, they were going to keep following us. So we come around the corner and we're like, let us go. You know, we just come out loud as possible to try to be intimidating. And when we come around the corner, they realize that they're outnumbered now, and their faces just turn to that oh crap face where you can just tell that somebody's like, I gotta get out of here. And now the foot is on the other shoe. The shoe is on the other foot. I got that one backwards. But you get what I'm trying to say, because they start running. Oh, it doesn't feel good when you're outnumbered and everybody's all pissed off now, does it? You guys wanted to chase us down with like 8 people. That wasn't very nice. Now you're afraid of 4 of us. And we weren't looking for a fight, but we weren't mad that they run away. We're not going to chase them. It's not like they would have anything that we wanted anyways. Plus, I'm just not a fan of taking things from people. Call me crazy, but I feel like it feels a lot better when you work hard and get something for yourself instead of just robbing someone. Then again, I've never robbed someone. For all I know, I could be missing out on quite the rush. That's a joke, YouTube. Don't rob people, okay? I hate that I have to clarify that, but they'll take away my money. Robbery is bad, okay? Anyways, they run off to the right, and my friend lives to the left. So instead of chasing them down, progressing this any further, we just decide that we're going to leave. So we start walking back to his house, and at that point we thought we were pretty okay, because if they had broken up, like there's just no way that they were going to be able to outnumber us, and we weren't afraid of a fair fight. It's just there's only so much you can do. If there's like 3 of them for every 1 of you, what really are you going to be able to do? But we get back to my friend's house and we sit down, and obviously all of us are like, dude, what was that? You just have an emo emo group running your neighborhood jumping people? Like, why is this happening? What is happening? More questions than answers. And I know he probably didn't have them. It's not like he's some expert. He's not Nigel Thornberry from the, oh my gosh, I can't remember the show name, but whatever. He's not Nigel Thornberry. He's not some expert. Ah, yes, the emo kid tends to try to jump people when he has felt a little bit threatened. Like, that's not what's happening here. But we start asking him what's going on, and he tells us that those group of kids are known for, like, just being the biggest little weenies in the neighborhood. They try to cause problems with people. They always try to get into fights, but they'll never do it with anyone that, like, outnumbers them or is stronger than them. They're the definition of a bunch of cowards, where they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we outnumber them. Yeah, let's go try to mess with them. They'll never pick on anyone their own size or anything. I guess we were bigger than them, but you get what I'm saying. 9 small people versus like 3 big ones is not a very fair fight. Either way, we did get out of there. They didn't get any of our money, but from then on, our friend was like, if I ever need you guys and I text you the emo kids are attacking, you know what's going on. And we were like, yes, sir, ready for duty. I don't know really why they just wanted $1 so bad. Like, sure, we did have more money when they asked us for money. I don't know why I would have given them the money in the first place, but we did have it. But even if they would have gotten away with it, like they jump us in the alley, they beat the ever-living crap out of us, they take the wallet or whatever, they only would have gotten like $5. Was all that really worth it for $5, man? Like, really? I'm just saying, you go get a job in an hour, you can make that back. It's not really worth running around trying to beat people up, especially because in this situation, you ended up looking like an idiot and face planting on the floor because you just weren't as strong as the people you were messing with. Not that I did anything. Once again, I want to clarify, I am not any like commando, super elite, self-defense warrior. I'm not that one dude on TikTok that's like always disarming people with one pinky finger. My friends were bigger than me. If I would have been alone, I would have been screwed. This is actually something I ended up seeing myself last time I was at the grocery store. I was just trying to do my thing, you know, get up and down the aisles, get some bread, literally, not the money kind, no robbing here. That being said, I tend to wake up a little early now. So when I went to the store, it was like a weekday morning, so it was pretty dead. There was just not a lot of people there. Not like eerily quiet. It didn't feel like I was in an apocalypse or anything, but I was just kind of aware that like the store wasn't popping like a Saturday at 10 a.m. And I was just kind of grocery shopping, doing my thing, literally trying to pick out what type of bread that I wanted when I heard screaming coming from like the front section of the store. And obviously the first thing that you're gonna think when you hear screaming in a grocery store early in the morning is that like, I don't know, there's like a medical emergency or something, or maybe one of the stalkers realized they're out of green beans. I have no clue. I just didn't really think that there would be anything going on involving a Karen screaming at a worker this early in the morning. You think when you roll out of bed, you would just be like, time to go get my groceries. I didn't know people were up at like 7 a.m. still angry at the world. Maybe they're just a little grumpy, didn't get their beauty sleep. But regardless, I hear screaming, so obviously I go to look. And as I come around the corner with my cart towards like the front of the store where the registers are, it kind of comes into view, and I can hear the Karen way clearly now, and I can see her. And she's yelling something about how, like, technically this is legal tender, so because she's in America and an American citizen, the store has to take it as payment. And she's just going off. And I don't even know how we've gotten here, but like, obviously I'm a little interested. I don't know why the grocery store wouldn't take her money, right? Maybe I would be irritated too if I pulled out a $100 bill to pay with my groceries and they're like, sorry, we don't take cash. I'd be like, well, this is money. You have to take it. So obviously I just start kind of listening to the situation. I'm not trying to be nosy, but I'm just watching it unfold. And I moved a little closer, and she's still going off about how, you know, due to the Federal Reserve policy and blah, 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 this is legal money and they have to take it and da-da-da-da-da, just going off, saying a bunch of statutes and laws and all this stuff. And I'm sure there's got to be more to the story because I just don't really understand why this store would just be denying taking her money. Like, yeah, she's ranting about how it's legal money, but clearly there's something about this money that's off if they're not taking it. And that's when I finally hear the cashier speak for the first time. She had just been ranting about how, you know, this is real money. Ma'am, it's not real money. Which instantly kind of explained why they're not going to take it, right? Like, the cashier is just like, look, this isn't money. I can't take this. And the Karen snapbacks that, like, the United States has printed endless money. This is actually worth much more, and it is legal tender, as said in Section 4, Paragraph 5 of the U.S. Constitution. And the poor worker goes, ma'am, I can't take precious metals as payment for your groceries. And at that point, I'm super confused. I mean, I guess the U.S. dollar used to be based on, like, the gold system. There used to just be, like, a vault of gold, and technically every dollar was exchangeable for gold. But I didn't think that you could just, like, take a gold nugget to the store and be like, that right there, $60 worth. I don't know if she knows her laws right. Maybe I'm an idiot, but you know, I also feel like stores want money. It's not like Roman bartering days. Like, is this lady really carrying around a satchel with just a half pound of gold at all times in case she feels like buying a car? Like, I didn't realize people literally carry precious metals around to try to, like, buy stuff with it. Anyways, the Karen apparently doesn't like the fact that this cashier is not going to take the precious metals to pay for the groceries. Because, you know, it's the 21st century. They're not going to be taking her gold and pressing their own coins or anything. And so the Karen just starts going off. If you're not going to take this money that you're supposed to legally take as outlined in the U.S. Constitution, then you're going to have a big problem on your hands because I've already picked out these groceries. I don't think that they're going to have a big problem on their hands. It sounds like you might, you know, it sounds like you picked out a bunch of groceries at the grocery store and didn't bring any way to pay for it other than like a gold nugget. I don't even know what she had, what precious metal it'd been. For all I know, it could have been like a cup of copper, dude. Who knows? But regardless, I'm just like insanely confused listening to this go down because now she's going off about how it's their problem that she has a cart of groceries she can't pay for. And listen, I guess maybe she thought it would be really annoying to put it back, but the reality is, as someone who worked in a grocery store, there's probably a dude whose job it is just to run stuff back and like put stuff away if people don't end up buying it. So sure, I guess it would be unfortunate for that dude. But at the end of the day, it's definitely way more of a your problem thing if you picked out all these groceries and need food and you didn't bring money. I mean, yeah, I know stores want to make money, but like, you know, what did you expect the cashier to do? Oh no, please take this food for free. I do not want to have to put it back, especially because this worker's not making money off the store selling stuff. They're getting an hourly pay rate. You know, sure, the store has to be profitable to stay in business, but do you really think this cashier in particular is like, oh no, ma'am, please do not put back your frozen potatoes? Like, I just don't really feel like there's any reason for the cashier to care at all. Either way, though, Karen kind of continues her rant about how, like, this is your problem. You're going to give me these groceries for free, da-da-da-da-da. And obviously, they're just not going to give away the groceries for free. And I'm listening to all of this while, like, pretending to look at this little end cap aisle of cereal thing. And I'm probably looking at the back of the cereal box for 5 minutes, dude. I could tell you all the nutritional facts. But regardless, you know, the worker is like, I can't give you these groceries for free. It's not my fault that you didn't bring payment, you know. That's just really not how it works. And I could tell that the cashier was starting to get annoyed because the customer service voice had started to falter a bit. And like she said, it's just not my fault you didn't bring a way to pay. You know, usually you'd be like, oh, ma'am, that's very unfortunate. If you could please find an alternative form of payment, we will be able to push through this transaction. Nah, they were like, listen, you're stupid. You didn't bring money. And it would have been better if I could have seen like what she had, dude. I'm just imagining some big like gold nugget just sitting on like the scanner, dude. But yes, the cashier confirms that in fact, they are not allowed to just give away free groceries because someone demands it and apparently brought a gold nugget to pay and they can't take it. So that's their fault and they get free groceries. I feel like if this was a known store policy, like if this did work, no one would ever pay for groceries. I would just do this all the time. Not in a bad way, but if it really was like I could just take a gold nugget somewhere and if they were like, I don't know what to do with this, I got stuff for free, everyone would do that. You just go to a Lambo dealership, they're like, that'll be 400 grand. No, my friend, you forget that I have a cube of zinc. Yes, that is right, precious metal. So I will be taking 4 Lamborghinis. Anyways, so now that Karen has gotten the confirmation that she's not going to be getting the free groceries, she decides to double down and scream that she's just going to take it then, and starts just pushing the cart out of the store. Now, in stores like this, there's not a whole lot of security. There was like one guy. And the thing about security in stores like this is they can't really do anything. Like, the law makes it that they basically just have to let you
you steal stuff. They're not allowed to tackle you. They're not allowed to like prevent you from taking things. They can't grab the cart. Basically, they can just follow you and like take your picture and go, don't steal that. And like, that's really it. Their hands are tied. And I think that's stupid, bro. But you know, it's the way the law works. And obviously they're not going to go to jail to like prevent this lady from stealing groceries. So she starts taking the cart out and the security guard is like, hey man, please don't take that. Please don't take that. And this one guy is like following her out the store, just saying again, please don't take the groceries. And she's just ignoring him, walking towards the door. And I honestly thought that she was going to take him. Like I said, when I worked in a grocery store, we would have it happen. That's how I know they're not allowed to do anything. Like there's been plenty of times I just had to watch some dude walk out the door with a cart full of groceries he didn't pay for because my boss is like, you can't do anything and neither can I. So I just assumed that was going to happen. But it was almost like when she got to the door of the grocery store, guilt hit her for a second because she finally just stops the cart and she goes, fine, I guess I don't want these groceries. And he goes, thank you for not stealing them, ma'am. And her response to not being able to steal these groceries isn't just a normal reaction of like, you're welcome for not stealing them and leaving the store. At that point, I would have been like, getting out of there. No, she then starts screaming at the security guard about how this entire store is going to be hearing from her lawyer because, you know, they have to accept legal tender here. There's no way that they're able to run a business without the ability to take precious metals as payment. Just a whole laundry list of just things that I don't think are true. Like, all right, I need a fact check on that one. I can't guarantee you what stores have to do. That being said, I just don't feel like it's 1882 anymore, man. I feel like there's not a whole lot of people whipping out precious metals to pay for stuff like a check in the 80s. And so she storms out of there after yelling for a bit and she leaves the cart. And, you know, obviously I'm glad she didn't steal the groceries, but I was just kind of confused as to why she was committing that hard and then not. Like, stealing is wrong, you know, but I thought the gold bug had already made a big enough scene and like storming out of the store with the guy following her saying, don't steal stuff. I just assumed she was going to take it. Either way, though, you know, they took the cart to the back, probably put all the stuff back. It wasn't that big of a deal. You know, no one's day was ruined, Karen. But, yeah, she left. And after that, I went back to consuming my groceries, or not consuming, putting them in the cart so I could buy them. Don't consume them before you buy. No. So, you know, basically what ended up happening, finished, checked out, went to the car, went home, and instantly knew that it was going to be a video for the channel. But yeah, that's the Karen who apparently expected free groceries for some reason. Seriously, dude, I just can't believe that this lady thought she was about to bust out the precious metals to pay for stuff. Like, she was gonna bring Skyrim bartering to the real world, dude. Alright, so as I said, this is my encounter with Super Karen, which was basically an amalgamation of all that is Karen, you know, just trying to cause as many problems as possible, trying to get everyone in trouble. And this entire interaction started on a pretty busy day right before Easter. You know, any holiday that we had at a grocery store, it would tend to get absolutely nuts right before the holiday. Everyone's trying to get their food, and as a result, there was a lot more spills, and I ended up getting called to a spill in the back aisle. When I get to the back aisle, my manager was kind of standing by the spill. It was my favorite manager I worked with, and you know, since it's busy, he didn't want to take a chance of someone getting hurt, so he had put down a wet floor sign, but was going to stand there while I mopped it up just to tell people to avoid it, so that way nothing happened, because it was just so busy. And the spill itself was no big deal. It looked like somebody had just kind of like done gallon smashing, which for some reason was a stupid trend where people would like smash milk on the ground. I don't really understand why that was a trend, but yeah, for like, you know, a little bit of a period when I worked at this grocery store, some kids would come in, smash milk on the ground as a joke and run out, and like, it's really not that big of a deal. It's more annoying than anything. But I'm just kind of cleaning up this milk spill while my manager is standing there, and he's just kind of telling people like, hey, watch out, there's liquid, don't fall, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of zone out and just start mopping because I know my manager's there, so I shouldn't have to talk to any customers, right? And as I'm literally spilling up spoiled milk or spilled milk, I hear an angry voice say something like, "What are you doing wasting the milk?" And we were near the dairy section, obviously, that's why the milk was here, so I didn't think that they were talking to me, you know, like, I'm not wasting anything, I'm cleaning something up off the floor, so I just didn't even register that, like, the person could possibly be talking to me, you know? It was kind of my job to mop up spilled things. I didn't consider it wasting to pick up stuff that had been on the floor, but that's when I hear it again, like, "What are you doing? You're wasting the milk." And I look up, and it's the most Karen-looking woman I've ever seen. The haircut, the pose, the attitude, just like the aura around her wanted to speak to my manager. And she's just kind of staring at me. And I look at my manager and he looks at me and we look at her and we're kind of confused. And my manager says like, oh, he's just cleaning up this spill. We're not wasting anything, which was the truth. But apparently this Karen did not like that answer because she starts yelling at me and my manager about how like there's so much food that gets wasted in America, and this milk is on the floor, but it's still perfectly good for someone to drink, which it's just not. The amount of shoes that walk on this floor every day, I'm telling you, you don't want to drink or eat anything off of it. But then she says something incredibly dumb, which is that we should have gotten a squeegee and like put it back into a bottle to donate to somebody. And I'm literally so flabbergasted at the stupidity of that statement that like I can't reply. I heard stupid stuff all the time in this store, but the idea that we were going to squeegee literal spilled milk into a bottle and then give it to someone was weird. Who was gonna take that, like, hey man, do you want this floor milk that we managed to wring out the mop into a bottle for you? Like, no one's gonna want that, and on top of it, I'm not spending my time squeegeeing loose liquid back into a bottle. I've got better stuff to do. Like, imagine trying to scrape liquid off the floor into a bottle and then taking the time to turn around and donate it. Literally no one's gonna take it, like I said. Like, even if you tried to give it to somebody, they'd be like, I don't want floor milk. And it's disgusting. Like, you're probably gonna get someone sick and get sued if you try to scrape milk off the floor and then give it to them. But the sheer stupidity of the statement leaves me speechless, and I just don't even reply to the Karen because I'm so shocked about how dumb it is. And my manager is more confused than me, but he's the manager, so he has to do the talking, and he says something along the lines of, well, we don't donate damaged items, and the milk is on the floor, so it's contaminated now, so we can't donate it. And like, he kind of said it like that, so it kind of sounded mean, but he wasn't trying to be mean. I think he was just genuinely confused on what she was asking. Like, he's trying to be nice, but how can you politely tell someone that they're a moron for trying to drink milk off the floor? You would think at that point, though, the Karen might have had like a light bulb moment and been like, oh yeah, I guess it would be pretty weird if you pulled milk off the floor, put it back in a bottle, and then gave it to somebody. But instead of having a light bulb moment and being like, oh yeah, that was dumb, she kind of starts going off even more and arguing with my manager, saying that like, we need to donate to the less fortunate, and the fact that we were just willing to mop up milk and waste food products showed that we didn't care about people. Which, listen lady, it's my job at a grocery store, I'm not here to care about people. But on top of it, completely unrelated, the company did donate a ton of the food. Like, the corporation that I worked for worked with local charities to donate stuff that was about to go bad. I didn't have anything to do with it directly, it wasn't my organization. But the idea that like we didn't donate any of our food to anyone was kind of ridiculous. And he says something along the lines of like, well, we have a corporate policy for donating food, but we don't do spilled milk or spilled product or damaged product because it's a health hazard. And this Karen is just not letting it go, bro. You think at this point she'd realize she's not gonna win and move on to her grocery shopping. Like, don't you have Easter to shop for? But no, she just keeps lamenting us for wasting perfectly good dairy product, which, keep in mind, is milk on the floor. And finally, my manager is just kind of getting irritated and tells her like, well, you don't have to like the store policy for it to be the store policy. There's nothing I can do. You can continue with your grocery shopping. We're just cleaning up this mess. Which, he wasn't trying to be mean, but like, this lady had been sitting here arguing with us for minutes now. I'm almost cleaned up with the mess. I don't know what she wanted us to do. But whatever, my manager's kind of like, we're just cleaning this up, it's not a big deal. And she storms off pissed, and I finish cleaning up the milk. I take the mop bucket back, I drain it, I poured all the milk from the mop down the drain. Sorry, lady. I know I could have given it to somebody, but alas, I didn't think anyone wanted mop bucket milk. And I go back up to bag groceries. I was kind of the person where like, there's a spill, I go clean the spill, I go back to my normal job. And it was a pretty busy day, as I said, so after 2 hours, I had kind of forgotten about the Karen encounter. I had just like had to get to work, so I ended up going on my break 2 hours later. And as I'm walking from the front of the store to the bake room, which is in the very back of the building, I see the manager from earlier, and he's kind of by the milk, so I decide to make a joke to him about the Karen from earlier. It's been hours, she shouldn't be in the store. And so I see him and I say, oh, what are you gonna do? Spill some milk so we can squeegee it and donate it? And it's just not a very funny joke, right? Like, it's not a big deal. I was just literally making a reference to what had happened earlier. It had just popped back into my mind, and it had been hours, so I thought it was good. And my manager looks up and he smiles and he goes, yeah, that was pretty crazy, huh? I can't believe that lady wanted us to donate milk from the floor. He doesn't call her crazy, he just says the situation was crazy. But as the words, that situation was crazy comes out of his mouth, I hear possibly the worst thing I could have heard in this moment, and it's the Karen's voice screaming, "I knew I would catch you talking about me." And I want to think it's a different Karen. In my head, I'm literally thinking, there's no way this lady is still here. The entire interaction was hours ago. Unless she was literally trying to stay in the store and take as long as humanly possible, there's no way that this same Karen is still here. But I have my back to the noise, and I look at my manager, and I see that he's turning ghost white. And sure enough, I slowly turn around, and it feels like something out of a horror movie, because as I turn around, I realize it's the same Karen. I don't know why she was still in the store, but she had stayed in the store for 2 hours, and I don't know how she knew where I was or that I was going to say something, but yeah, she had somehow managed to be right there when I started talking trash about how crazy she was. And listen, I was just trying to make a joke. We didn't talk about customers a lot. It was just such a weird experience, and me and this manager got along, so I was just trying to make a joke. And I have this thing that's a personal thing. Not a lot of people have this problem. I hope if you do, then you'll understand, which is when I'm uncomfortable and the situation's awkward, I just start laughing. There's nothing I can do. I just start giggling. And I obviously start laughing because the situation is weird that this lady was here for 2 hours to hear me talk trash. So I'm just giggling at the situation. I haven't even said anything yet. And obviously me laughing at the situation doesn't do a ton to calm the Karen down. I wasn't trying to be rude. It was just so uncomfortable that I'm giggling just out of this is so awkward. And so, she starts yelling at me that she's gonna have my job if I think I can walk around here and insult customers. And the fact that I think it's funny I got caught shows how immature I am. And I'm definitely laughing. And I'm not trying to be immature. Just it was so uncomfortable in that moment and so awkward that I just couldn't help it. And I'm still laughing as she's yelling at me saying she's gonna have my job and da-da-da-da-da. And I start trying to apologize, but I'm laughing. And so it doesn't come off as genuine, and to be honest, I really wasn't that sorry because the entire situation was crazy. But I'm trying to apologize and it's just coming out really bad because I'm I'm so sorry. And she's like, "Are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry." And she starts screaming that clearly I'm not sorry because I'm laughing at her. And I mean, to be fair, if I was pissed off and somebody was laughing, I probably wouldn't think they were sorry either. So I just look at my manager please help me, man. I have no clue what to say in this situation. I'm screwed. There's literally tears starting to be in my eyes because I'm just laughing. And my manager looks at me and then looks at the lady, and he decides to go with a very hard sell. And he says, "We weren't talking about you." Which, bless his heart, it's obviously a very awkward situation. You don't really know what to say. However, what other milk lady are we possibly making fun of? It's not like this happened on the regular. But he sticks with it. She's like, "Oh, you weren't talking about me?" And he goes, "No, man, we were talking about a different customer, actually." And she's not buying it because it's a really, really hard thing to buy. Obviously, we were, but in that moment, I can't blame him. That's basically a pure panic decision right there. It's not like he's thinking through how stupid this sounds. He's just like, "Oh crap, we were talking about a customer. The customer's right there, and this is awkward." I mean, imagine calling a customer from a few hours ago crazy just to find out that they had stayed inside the store and followed you around just to get pissed. You're gonna have to do everything you can to get out of this because clearly that person is crazy. Doubling down and calling them more crazy isn't gonna fix anything because, I mean, they've clearly got nothing better to do other than just walk around a grocery store and just wait to fight with the workers, But my manager tries to do the whole "we're not talking about you" thing, and she's just not having it. Karen is, dumb enough to think that we should donate floor milk for some reason, but not dumb enough to think we weren't talking about her. And so she starts going off to my manager about how, in all of her years, she has never had an experience with a manager like him who would dare to badmouth a customer, blah, blah, blah. And listen, dude, here's the reality of working retail, okay? If you've ever been annoying in a store, chances are the people talk trash about you after you leave. It's not saying it's the best thing in the world, but yeah, if you come into a store and start screaming at people, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that lady was crazy, huh?" And what made it really uncomfortable is my manager isn't a horrible guy. This is the only time I've literally ever seen him say anything about a customer, and of course it's when he is right next to her. So, he doubles down and he's like, "We weren't talking about you. This is a big misunderstanding, but I'll give you 10% off your entire order, here's a coupon. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. understanding and I'm sorry for upsetting you. Which I think is a pretty fair offer, you know. There's literally no way this lady is going to think that we're not talking about her. But clearly she had hung out in the store for the last 2 hours to follow us around, wait for us to say something. And so giving her 10% off is probably like, you know, the least you could do for her trouble. I know that sounds stupid, but hey, if you want to sit around the store for 2 hours and start freaking out about stuff, you can have 10% off, you know, as long as you leave. But she says that that's not good enough. That 10% offer, no. She needs free food. And my manager at this point looks at me and I'm looking at him and I'm like, this is all you, bro. And he starts telling her, like, I can't offer you free food. That's literally not something I can do. Like, I do not have the power to just let you walk out of here with your groceries for free. And she starts screaming about how, like, you know, well, apparently you and your employees can talk trash about me, but you can't give me free groceries, which is kind of funny because it's like, I mean, yeah, like that, sort of. And at that point, I'm still laughing and I knew we're in trouble anyways, so I confirmed that to her. So you can talk trash about me, but not give me groceries? And this was stupid to say and I shouldn't have said it, but I said, yeah, kind of. And at that point, you know, I knew it was stupid, so I look down and just get ready to get yelled at, and she starts going off. Did you hear what that young man just said? He just said that that's basically what you guys do here. This is why I deserve free food. I can't believe you would let him talk to a customer that way. And my manager looks at me and says, go to the break room. And I know I'm in trouble. I know I'm going to get yelled at. I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. You know, I don't need to be told twice to get out of this situation. And I start to walk away. But as I'm walking away towards the break room, which I'm close to, I like feel movement, you know? And I hear the Karen say something about like, oh, no, you don't. You're not going anywhere. And I kind of put two and two together and realize that like, well, if I'm hearing movement and Karen says I'm not going anywhere, she's probably coming at me right now. So I just take a few more steps forward, right? And as I'm like taking the steps forward a little faster, I feel something grab onto my shirt, but doesn't get like a hold of it, but something grabs onto the vest that I have over my shirt. And I turn around and Karen is standing there like grabbing my vest thing. And I'm like, ah, man, this isn't good. I'm under attack. I'm not really like afraid of the situation, but obviously it's not too great that I'm on my way to the break room and Karen's grabbing onto my shirt and I just don't know what she's gonna do. And at that point, my manager is like getting really annoyed and he yells at the Karen. He's like, let go of him now. Which, to be fair, the Karen does let go. You know, she lets go of me and I kind of take some steps away just because I don't know what this lady's about to do. But she turns away from me and turns to my manager and she goes, are you going to defend that worker? And he goes, I'm not saying what he said was right, but you can't grab him. Which, you know, that's his job as the manager, is to protect his employees. And her response to that is to literally swing on my manager instead. Now, I'm not saying that Karen is out here like Mike Tyson, you know. I'm not saying that she absolutely laid him out, but I will say she definitely had some speed to her punches because she connects the first punch, then another fist comes in, and then back to the original fist, and she gets 3 punches in about 5 seconds. And they're not enough to like knock my manager out, but it's definitely enough to like discombobulate him a little bit. And he kind of like shakes his head and just looks at her and goes, did you just hit me? Like he literally can't believe what just happened. And Karen says, yeah, and I'll do it again. And at that point, you know, I kind of start to get between them. He's backing up. Random people from the store start to get between us and are like, whoa, you're way out of line, you know? And they start telling her, like, who do you think you are to be smacking people? And she starts explaining that we had been talking trash or whatever, and, like, none of the other customers around are understanding. Because, yeah, even if they are, it's not a sense that you can, like, just smack a random dude in the face. And she, instead of, like, you know, apologizing or leaving at that point, tries to double down, even though everyone's telling her she was out of line. And she's like, well, I wouldn't have hit you if you would have donated the milk. And I'm like, we're back to the milk, you know? I thought we were on the fact that we were making fun of you thing, but she's still upset about the fact that we didn't donate this damn floor milk. And my manager at that point has just had enough. And he looks at the lady and he goes, look, you need to get out of here because I am calling the cops. And at that point, she doesn't need to be told more, you know? I don't know if the cops knew who she was, if she didn't want to like see her old friends or whatever, but she doesn't need a warning other than that. As soon as my manager is like, you gotta go because you just hit me, you know, she's out. And she literally starts like sprinting out of the store. She leaves her cart there, you know, the cart that had apparently been rolling around the store for 2 hours, and she just dips out of there, which, you know, I will say pretty quick to abandon the cart considering how much work went into it. This was like the longest grocery shopping trip I had literally ever seen a customer do, just hours of walking around. The cart itself, there was frozen items from when she had first come in the store. The frozen items had literally like stopped being frozen. That's how long she was just walking around the store.
store. And at that point, she's gone, and I go up to my manager, and I'm like, are you okay, man? What was that? And he's like, I'm fine. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, she didn't hit me. She just grabbed my vest. So, like, are you okay? And he says, yeah, but we're going to have to go talk to the store manager. And the store manager was the guy, like, in charge of the whole store. This was just the front, like, floor manager guy. I don't know if that makes sense. If you ever worked in a grocery store, you know there's, like, levels to managers. There's manager above a manager above a manager. But, you know, we go in and we tell him what happened. And, of course, the store manager is giving me crap for saying the comment and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm the first to admit, you know, I shouldn't have done it. I should have just kept my mouth shut, you know. I'm not going to sit here and defend what I said. But at the same time, I didn't think that she was going to play Mike Tyson Punch-Out with my manager. You know, I thought I might just get written up and that's going to be the end of it. Regardless, the store manager starts like going over the security footage so he can kind of see what happened, and he starts looking in so he can make a report about it. And sure enough, we're watching this lady just kind of walk around the store for 2 hours after the milk incident. And this lady is basically stalking my manager. Like, she's staying just far enough back where she can see him and hear him, but like is trying to not, you know, attract attention to herself. And she's like looking at stuff on the shelves and putting it back, like just literally staying in the store trying to listen to him. And listen, I get that we shouldn't have talked trash about the customer, yeah, whatever. But who has that much time, bro? Like, she literally is just standing around a grocery store following my manager around, waiting for him to say something about her crazy behavior about the milk, just so she can be like, you should donate the milk. No, even if we shouldn't have talked about the customer, you know, donating the floor milk, still a stupid idea. I will stand by that till the end of time. I'm not squeegeeing liquid back into a bottle and donating it to anyone. And it's so ridiculous watching this all go down that even our manager starts to make fun of it a little bit, you know. He's still angry at us because you're not supposed to talk about customers, especially on the floor, but he's like, okay, yeah, clearly neither of you thought she was going to be in the store, and clearly neither of you thought she was going to start throwing hands at people, you know? I did get in a little bit more trouble than my manager because he literally did nothing wrong, but like even our store manager is looking at this situation like, this is wild. So he watches the fight go down, and at that point he's like, all right, we're going to ban her from the store. They didn't have an incredible picture of her, you know. Security cameras, for whatever reason, are still in like 360p, dude, you know. Sure, my iPhone can shoot a 4K video, but hey, security cameras, 360p is apparently all you need. And he prints out a picture and hands it to security and says that, like, you know, if this lady comes back, she's to be removed, blah, 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 blah. She attacked a manager, be on the lookout, yada, yada, yada. And honestly, that should have been the end of it, right? Because, like, whatever, you're just kind of banned from the store. But about a week later, I come into work and I see my favorite manager, the one I'd been punched in the face, and he goes, Ryan, she came back. And I'm instantly like, no way, no, she did not. I literally could not believe it. And listen, the way that being banned from the store works, like, yeah, okay, technically you're banned, but for the most part, we're not walking around like checking IDs and making sure. If you come back into the store and you calmly shop and no one sees you, you're pretty okay. Even if we see you, if you're calm and you're not freaking out, we're probably not gonna say anything. But apparently she had come in wearing sunglasses and a hat trying to hide her identity, which, you know, we're not the FBI. Like I said, if you come in and don't cause a scene, no one's gonna notice. But she comes in, you know, all incognito mode. She's got sunglasses, she's got the hat, keeping it low key, and she sees my manager. And you would think she would be like, the last thing I should do is go talk to the guy that I punched because he'll definitely recognize me. And especially in combination with the hat and sunglasses, it looked like she was supposed to have been laying low, or that's what he told me anyways. Like, if you wanted to lay low, you just wouldn't say anything. But I guess she couldn't help herself because she ends up walking up to my manager and starts yelling at him, asking if he had made a new policy for donating damaged goods. And my manager is like, wait, are you the lady complaining about the spilled milk? Which is hilarious, you know, never cry over spilled milk or whatever, and here she was crying about it. And she confirms it. She's like, yeah, I'm back. Did you think that you were never gonna see me again? Well, think again. Da-da-da-da-da, I'm here until you change your policy. And as she's going off about how she's back and he's never gonna get rid of her, my manager literally just gets on the intercom and goes, security. And security comes over and he's like, yeah, this lady's banned from the store. And she's like, I'm banned from the store? And he goes, yeah, you know you're banned from the store. And has security escort her out, which is especially funny because that literally like never happened, bro. Like I said, for the most part, if we ban someone, nobody knows who you are, right? The literally only way you have to get kicked out and embarrassed by the security and thrown out in front of everyone was to go up to the manager and try to fight him again. And listen, it's just not that deep, dude. We can't give milk from the floor to people.
even if we could, I don't think we would, because it's just kind of like not cool to be feeding people floor milk. I really do not understand her obsession with this, bro. I really do not. Either way, Super Karen ended up getting removed from the store. That was the last time we ended up seeing her. I don't know if she did come back and like not fight anyone or what. I'm gonna assume after she got removed by security, she just found a different store to shop at. But all of this could have been avoided by, you know, A, not caring about the fact that I was mopping up spilled milk, or B, just not attacking the manager. And listen, like I said, I shouldn't have said anything, da-da-da-da-da. I was just trying to make a stupid joke to my manager about the situation from earlier. But yeah, either way, I hope wherever that Karen is, she ended up figuring it out, you know? Maybe for all I know, she opened the world's first ever milk charity that takes milk from the floor and gives it to hungry people. If that is the case, I would love to see some scientific data on how sick everyone who drinks the milk gets. But hey, whatever floats your boat, Karen, I just hope you're happier out there, and I really hope that you haven't decided to take your combat skills on any more managers since then. Regardless, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me had just graduated high school, and they weren't really sure what they wanted to do with their life yet, you know? They knew that, like, they didn't want to necessarily stay in the town they grew up in forever, but they didn't know what they wanted to go to college for, so they decided to take a year to kind of figure stuff out, you know? And during that year, they obviously didn't just want to be sitting around, so they started looking for a job, and they figured that they would get a job working outside because, you know, they like to be outside. They figured it's better than sitting inside all day, and they thought that, you know, like some manual labor might help them work out a little bit. Like if it was mandatory for work, that's why they just kind of were thinking about it. So he ended up getting a job with the landscaping company. And, you know, for the most part, it was a pretty easy job. Sure, you had to work outside. Sure, it was manual labor. But for the most part, you just kind of raked up leaves, used the leaf blower. If people had problems with their gutters, they would clear them, you know, landscaping stuff. But over time, he kind of started to realize that, like, the winter was pretty chill and the summer was not the best. Because as things started to heat up in the springtime, people started doing more demanding jobs. You know, they wanted you to come replant all the grass. They wanted you to come rip out all these bushes and plant new ones. They wanted you to do X. They wanted you to do Y. And now, instead of the weather being nice and balmy and you just raking up some leaves, removing a dead tree every now and then, you're doing like a bunch of hard work in sweaty weather where it's just not very comfortable. There's no way to cool down. You're just exhausted. And so he kind of started to reevaluate if he really wanted to keep doing this job. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think many jobs are for everybody. Like, people like to do what they like to do. Some people love to be outside all day working. Some people love to, like, you know, plant stuff and then look at it and be like, hey, I did that. I'm not gonna fault anyone for that. It's just not for everyone. And one of the things that he really hated is that their boss would not let them take breaks. And as the weather kept getting hotter and hotter, it kept getting more and more annoying. Like I said, when they were doing jobs in the winter, it didn't really matter. You didn't need a break. You weren't exhausted. But as the time May rolled around and the humidity was getting up there and the heat was getting up there, yeah, after an hour or two of being at a job site working, you wanted to just go sit in the shade for 5 minutes and just like cool off a little bit. And if anything, you know, I understand as a boss that like you want to get stuff done. It kind of starts to become a safety hazard once you have people like begging you for a water break and you're like, no, you better go finish planting those petunias, pal. And, you know, him and the boss would kind of start to butt heads over it. And the boss was this guy who was a second generation business owner. You know, his dad had started this company and made it very successful and then gave it to his kid. And sometimes that works out. But this dude just had a huge sense of entitlement, thought he was just the Bill Gates of business, you know, and didn't treat his workers very well. Like, you know, when a boss just doesn't respect anyone that works for them, you know, well, I'm in charge, so I want to do it this way. Like, that was kind of the attitude he had. If you want to be a good boss, you got to take a second and realize that, like, your employees are people too, and sometimes they're going to have good ideas, sometimes they're going to have complaints. Maybe they're not always valid, but either way, you have to respect them and, like, hear them out and at least engage in the conversation, especially when it's about something as important as taking a break, you know? But every time the person who sent this to me would bring up the fact that, like, hey, it's insanely hot, you're not letting us get any breaks in at all, and I feel like it's unfair to be working 8 hours without even having a chance to like sit down and breathe a little bit when it's so hot. And the
the boss's response to that, instead of being like, you know what, that's pretty reasonable, I would want a break if I was in your position, was always just to basically bully him for like being pathetic and lazy, you know? And that always pissed off the person working there. Obviously, no one wants to be belittled by their boss in front of everyone, but especially because even customers really liked this dude because he was a hard worker. So imagine every time you're like, hey man, listen, I'm working really hard, but I need to drink some water. And he's like, no, you're so lazy. You're wasting everyone's time here. I don't even know why I pay you. You're like, all right, man, whatever. Everyone else thinks I'm a hard worker. None of my coworkers complain. You're the only one with beef. So he just started getting very, very fed up with this whole ordeal. And it all came to head at the end of May when things were like really hot. It was kind of the first week of like real summer weather. And they were doing this job at this old lady's house. And she was a very, very nice old lady. You know, she was talking to the guys while they were working. She would bring out lemonade. And the boss wasn't at the job site every day, but like they were getting a ton of work done. They were basically redoing her whole yard. They were going to be doing it for a week, but obviously every now and then with the weather being insane, the old lady would be like, you guys need to chill for a little bit. It's too hot. Just have some lemonade. And she's just trying to be a nice old lady, you know? Anyways, they were kind of doing it in shifts. Like basically people would be working and then like one guy would take a break. The other guy on break would go back on, type of vibe. And a lot of work was getting done, but the boss decided to surprise them one day and come by and see what was going on. And anytime your boss is going to do a surprise inspection, they're basically trying to catch you goofing off. You know, they're trying to catch you doing bad things. And of course, it just so happens that when the boss pulls up, the person who sent this to me that he already thinks is lazy happens to be the person sitting on the porch with the old lady with a glass of lemonade in his hands. And the boss gets out, you know, and you would think even if this looks really bad and he's annoyed, he would understand that it's not a good idea to scream at anyone in front of the customer. No, he starts going off from the moment he gets out of his truck. What is wrong with you? Are you kidding me? You're so lazy. You actually went and asked this lady to drink her stuff because you're at my job site. Are you kidding me? This is the most unprofessional behavior I've ever seen. You are a ridiculous embarrassment to my company. Da-da-da-da-da. Just going off. And obviously the worker's sitting there taking it. He knew he was going to be pissed. But the old lady starts to stand up for him a little bit and goes, no, no, no. This kid is a very hard worker. He takes like 2 breaks a day because it's just too hot. They all need a break. And the old, like the guy, the owner, looks at the old lady. And once again, you'd think at this point, you know, this is the lady paying for it. If she's insisting that everything's okay and they're working hard, it's not that big of a deal. He starts to argue with the old lady. He's like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many times this guy asks for a break? He wants like 3 breaks a day. Are you kidding me? No work would get done if we're doing that. And at this point, the worker's had enough. He's like, listen, dude, I'm not asking for 3-hour breaks a day. I'm saying like 10 minutes 3 times a day. I need to be able to drink water while I'm sweating my like everything out of me to try to get this landscaping done for you when you're not even here, bro. And the old lady is just kind of like, I don't want to be involved in any of this work drama, but he's not a lazy worker. He's been working very hard. They all have, you know, like, look at how beautiful my yard is. Because the work they did was really good, and they weren't just being lazy, you know, they really were not. But the boss is just having none of it, you know. It was almost like his plan was to pull up, find someone taking a break, and like make an example out of them. Because he starts to argue with the old lady again, and he's like, I don't care if you think that they're working hard. You're not the one paying their salary, blah, 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 blah. So I don't care what you think. I don't care how good the work they're getting done is. You don't need any breaks. Do you understand me? Which, listen, I could understand the boss's frustration if he was like, you guys are taking too many breaks. There's too much time slacking off. But to be screaming at these people that they don't need to take any breaks while working 8-hour shifts, 1, is just unrealistic. And 2, I'm pretty sure it's illegal. You know, I don't really like know a whole lot about employment law, right? I'm a YouTuber. That being said, I'm pretty sure it's a requirement that like you have to give people the ability to like use the bathroom and drink water and take a break if they're at work. And at that point, some of the other workers are like, listen, man, you have to give us breaks. And so now it's kind of become a group like argument, right? The old lady, the person who sent this to me, and all the coworkers versus the boss just being like, no, it's dramatically unfair that you expect us to just work forever and not take any breaks. And instead of once again taking the time to reevaluate and go, maybe they've got a point here, you know, maybe their work would be a little bit better if they weren't exhausted. He doubles down and is like, you guys are the laziest bunch of workers I've literally ever ever had. This is ridiculous. You don't need any breaks. I never took any breaks, so you don't need to either. And listen, man, it's fantastic that apparently you've never taken a break. I don't really believe it, but whatever. But on top of that, you've got to understand, bro, that if you're not taking a break, okay, it's your company, right? You know, like it's your thing. Obviously, you care about it a lot. The people that you are paying to work for your thing are not going to have the same work ethic that you do because it's not theirs. Obviously, they're going to do hard work. They're going to get stuff done. If the customers are happy and you're making money and the work's getting done, hey, that's what matters. But like, I don't really understand why you would expect these workers to care as much as you do. They don't own it. Why would they? Anyways, the old lady starts to get very upset with the fact that this guy's just screaming at the workers, screaming at her. You know, she's just trying to be like a sweet old lady, take care of these workers. Not that she had to, it's not her job at all. But like, you know, she's starting to get upset because she's like, these guys are working hard and they've been so nice. You haven't even been to this job site and you come in and you just start screaming at everybody and making everything uncomfortable. And the boss is like, you know what? If you don't like the way that I handle my business, then like maybe my crew shouldn't be finishing your landscaping. And she's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I just don't understand how this hasn't been a problem. You haven't been here at all. You pull up and now there's a ton of problems when everything was going fine. And the boss just could not take a second to like calm down and realize that he's arguing with a customer that is saying, I really like the work. There is no problem. It's okay. Like, this is basically like a manager walking up to a Karen and demanding that they cause a problem, but it's like not a Karen. And they're like, no, I don't want to fight with you. And the manager's like, fine, I'll give you a discount. And they're like, what do you mean? I didn't want to fight. Anyways, after a little bit more back and forth with the old lady, he ends up getting in his truck and like on his way back to the truck, he makes a threat about like, you'll be lucky if my crew's here tomorrow to finish this work, you know, which like, all right, dude, that's just kind of not a professional way to run stuff. Like, even if you don't like a customer, if you're halfway through the job, you kind of just have to finish the job, you know, like that's just kind of business. You have to have a level of professionalism. Even if a customer's pissing you off, you got to finish what you started. But no, whatever. He leaves. The old lady's upset. The crew's kind of like, I don't know if have a job. I don't know if we're fired. I don't really know what's going on. So they end up all packing up and going home. And when they all get home, they kind of had a group chat with the boss and without the boss, right? And they checked the group chat with the boss and he's texted them basically saying that like they're fired effective immediately. He can't have such lazy people that expect breaks in this industry. That's not how it works. And all of them go to the other group chat and they're like, well, that's kind of crappy. We're all out of the job. But one of them that was a little bit older and had some more experience goes, listen, I've been thinking about making my own company anyways. I talked to that old lady we were working with. She's gonna let us finish her yard, but like, let's just make our own thing. And listen, here's the problem when you're a lazy boss who's never at the job site and is horrible to your workers, but the customers really like them, dude. Your workers are just gonna go make their own thing, bro. So whatever, one of the workers ends up making their own little landscaping thing. They finished that lady's yard, right? And, you know, it wasn't as immediately successful as the other one they were working on because it had been built by that dude's dad. But over time, they definitely noticed that, like, that guy would lose clients and they were gaining them. And it wasn't directly stealing from that dude's business. It's just he went out and hired another crew and would, like, yell at them and make sure they didn't take breaks and they would quit. And he'd hire another crew. And, like, eventually he found people that would deal with working 8 hours straight and not take any breaks, but like, you know, it's not the type of people that are actually fantastic at their job, because people that are great at their job are going to go find a company where they're allowed to take a break. Let's be honest, if you're the Pablo Picasso of landscaping, where are you going to work? The company that's like, hey, you have 5 days a week, you work 8 hours, you take breaks like the way you're supposed to, you have 401k and a dental plan. Or the guy that's like, what? You need water? Are you kidding me? You're sweating. Drink your sweat. Which one are you going to pick? It's really not rocket science. And of course, you know, he had argued with the old lady, so clearly he's willing to like argue with his customers. So it's not like, you know, that's fantastic either. Anytime there's a problem, his customer service skills are zero. And they basically just watch this dude destroy the business that his dad has built up. He's not out of business, you know, like he's still technically in business, but it's just a shell of what it once was. And there's popped up like a ton of different, you know, companies that do the same thing that have kind of taken over what he did once have control of. So overall, dude, I don't know where he went to business school. I don't know if his dad taught him how to do anything, but like for some reason, he really expected that people were going to do hard manual labor and not take any breaks and enjoy working for him. Believe it or not, if you're kind of nice to the people that work for you, it's going to go a lot further. And you know, he always is like complaining on social media about how all of his workers always leave to go work for his enemies. You know, not realizing that, like, dude, if you can't keep people working for you for more than a month before they're like, I can't work for you, and they don't leave the industry, they just go to work for somebody else, eventually you might figure out, oh, I'm the problem. But no, dude, he just continues to cycle through people until he finds people that will put up for his crap, and then eventually they don't want to put up with his crap and they go and deal with someone that doesn't have as much crap. Either way, though, I just think it's very funny to see somebody that just, like, you know, thinks that they're the Bill Gates of business when in reality they don't understand how to let people drink water. Either way, I also hope that everybody is like much better off with this new company that they're working for. The person who sent this to me is going to school, you know. But overall, I would just say anyone out there that's trying to hustle, start a business, take over for your dad of a multi-billion-dollar corporation and not become an evil villain, just chill out, bro. It's all right if people take a 5-minute break, I promise, as long as the work is getting done and customers are happy. That's really all that matters. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link down below to my Spotify show. I do post all of these on the audio format on there. If you want to check that out offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, feel free to do it. Link in the description. And yeah, on that note, guys, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.
All right, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Starting to get a little sick of turkey leftovers, but other than that, we're vibing, we're thriving, and I've got a story time today I think you guys are gonna really enjoy. About a dude who just was acting a little immature for his age and threw his computer down the stairs for some reason. Don't really know why you would ever decide to do that, but either way, if you don't want to be as dumb as this guy, be sure to press the like button. And here's the comment of the day from the last video. Without further ado, let's get right into the story. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me is named Hank, and no, he is not a propane salesman, even though his parents did kind of do him dirty for that name. I feel like if you're named Hank, you have to go into propane sales. It's just kind of like predetermined for you. Either way, he decided to move into a house with some of his friends to split the rent. And it was a total bachelor pad. It's not like everybody was super focused on making everything super nice and organized. It was more about having fun, but the house never got too disgusting. It's not like they were growing mold or, you know, having just random stray cats pooping in the basement. Like, it stayed functional, and one of their friends ended up moving out to move in with his girlfriend, and they needed a guy to come in and help pay the rent for the house. So they started looking, and somebody had a friend of a friend of a friend who was looking for a place to live. And nobody knew him, which is always not a very good sign about a roommate, but at the same time, they were desperate. The other guy had moved out, so they let him in, and his name was Bo. And Bo was an aspiring esport athlete, which I can respect. You know, I, back in the day, loved to play a good competitive video game. That just made me sound like 137 years old, like some ancient sea turtle. You guys get what I'm saying. Like, I can respect somebody that's got commitment to wanting to get good at something and go pro, but at some point you have to accept reality, and Bo was just absolutely awful at video games. Like, you know, if there's judging accuracy ratings a certain percentage professionals are supposed to be at, his would be like 2%. I don't even know what game you're talking about, but 2% accuracy is just horrible no matter what game you're playing. That's just how naturally bad he was at video games. And beyond that, he wasn't very nice to his roommates either. He was just always pissed off, probably because he was really bad at video games and trying to go pro. That probably puts you in a really bad mood. Always raging at video games. It wasn't like he had the ability to go, oh, I might not be very good at this. It was always someone else's problem, always just screaming at somebody on the other end of the game. And on top of that, it was like he was legitimately allergic to cleaning everything. There was not a single time they saw him do anything to make things look better than he left it. And his room started to get so gross that the smell was like seeping out from under the door into the hallway. And even when you walked past his room, You know that stale smell that rooms will start to get where it just kind of starts to smell like something could have died in there, but you're not sure? That smell is just coming into the hallway. So they decide to call a house meeting about it because they don't want to live with that smell just kind of wafting into their nose all the time. And they weren't trying to be mean. They were just kind of like, hey man, you know, the smell in your room starting to come out of your room, so you really need to keep it clean. Like, it's just really not nice to live with. And instead of being reasonable, Bo decides to transform that into everyone secretly hating him and plotting against him because they're jealous of his future esports success. Keep in mind, dude hasn't won any money, you know, he's just living in this like pig filth room playing video games all day. And they don't even try to let him transform it into that. They stop him and they're like, look, dude, we support you. This just sucks to live with. Imagine every time you go to walk to your room, you have to just smell some horrible smell. And Bo's not having any of it. He's just like, whatever, I don't care. And he gets up, runs to his room all dramatically. And I feel like if you're gonna run away from something, you can't have a weird run. You can't help how you run, I know, but if you're gonna run away from something, you gotta be aware enough to realize if you have a weird run. And he has a weird run, so he like does this weird run away from them and slams the door. And everyone's like, all right, well, we tried to have a meeting, that was kind of weird, and they're all sitting there talking about it, and they start hearing a huge amount of noise from his room. Almost like someone's like ripping stuff off the wall. Like it sounds like whatever is going on in Bo's room is going to leave not much of Bo's room left. And all of a sudden the door flies open and he storms out and he has his PC in his hands and he's like, I don't even want it. And you know when someone says something and it's clear that they want someone to reply? Like that's how he said, I don't even want it. And everyone's just kind of looking up, staring at him because they were all sitting there talking crap about how weird the last interaction was. And here he comes holding his PC above his head like, I don't even want it. And no one replies, so he just starts repeating it. I don't even want it. And so no one wanting to get involved still isn't saying anything. And so he walks over to the banister over this little overhang where there's a landing where you come into the house and you can go upstairs or downstairs. And he looks at them and he's like, guys, I don't want it. I'm gonna break my PC. And he was clearly insanely desperate to get anyone's attention. Just please, 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 please. I don't know if he got enough of it as a kid or what, but like he was just clearly very, very much in the mood to get as much attention as humanly possible from everyone here. And no one's giving him any of it because, you know, he's like a grown man throwing a little kid temper tantrum to try to get a bunch of other grown men to pay attention. No one's going to do that. And so he decides that he's going to commit to it. You know, most people with a brain would put their PC down, relax a little bit. That's just not Bo. That would make too much sense. So he lifts the PC above his head and just throws it over his shoulders. And the PC goes flying through the air, and I don't know if you've ever seen a plane without wings try to take off. It doesn't go very well. And the PC does not grant like some magic flying powers to itself. It just kind of falls through the sky and then smashes into the landing down below. Gravity does what gravity is going to do. Believe it or not, that's what happens. You throw something from a high place, it goes to the low place, and it probably smashes into the floor. Alright guys, on screen now is a gift card code. For those of you that don't know, I give one of these away every time I post a video to say thank you to you guys for subscribing and turning on those notifications. So if you haven't already, be sure to turn on those notifications, subscribe, and if you already got them on, then you're an absolute legend, and let's get back to the video. Anyways, this computer smashes onto the landing and like the tempered glass side panel just shatters. And I don't know if you guys have ever broken tempered glass before, probably not, but if you have, then you know what it breaks like. Normal glass will just kind of crack and maybe like break into a few pieces. Tempered glass explodes. I mean, tiny little pieces everywhere, and it goes flying onto the carpet, on the stairs, all over this landing, which is right in front of the door to come in. And now everyone's just pissed off because there's glass everywhere and like they can't get downstairs to their rooms. Like people coming upstairs or coming into the house are gonna have problems and it has to get cleaned up. And as they're realizing that this is a huge mess that is like a safety hazard, Bo realizes that his PC probably isn't going to make it and he starts getting upset. And I don't know what he's upset for. Like I guess that breaking your PC is upsetting. But you broke your PC, bro. Nobody made you sign a contract that you had to go pick it up above your shoulders, throw it off the stairs, and shatter it. No one told you to do that. And on top of it, like, tempered glass can shatter and it won't break the PC, but when you throw it from that high up, chances are something's gonna break. Like, the GPU's gonna break off the motherboard, something's gonna happen. And he's getting upset, even though it just seems like he just did not have an understanding that that's how gravity works. Like, you can't just throw stuff from high heights and have nothing happen to it. Especially fragile electronics. Computers, that type of stuff is known for already not being, like, super durable. So why you would assume that you can just toss it around like a rag doll and it'll work fine is beyond me. Like, that one just seems pretty obvious that it's not gonna work like that. So he's mad about the PC, they're mad about the glass, and they start arguing with it. And he's like, I don't want to clean it up because it's my PC that got broken and I'm upset about it. So I don't want to have to clean it. And they're like, well, if you wouldn't have thrown it, the glass wouldn't be everywhere, so you're going to clean it because I'm not going to clean it up. So he starts cleaning up the glass, and the entire time he's just loudly complaining about how this is so unfair and he needs time to mourn his PC. What do you mean mourn your PC? Also, I feel like you don't get to mourn your PC when you are the person who threw it down the stairs, dude. It would have been fine. And of course, he's like saying that he shouldn't have had to clean it up and it wasn't a big deal. What do you mean it's not a big deal? There's literal shards of glass in the entrance to your house. Do you just want everybody that comes in without like work boots to have soles of their feet that look like they've been ran over a cheese grater? A cheese grater. I don't know where that was going, but you got what I'm saying. Like, your feet would be so cut up after walking all across this glass that apparently doesn't need to get cleaned up. No, it's fine. If anything, it's more of a booby trap. Like, what in the Home Alone are you trying to do out here? You can't have glass just sitting in front of your entryway. I feel like that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. People already are willing to sue people for stuff that they shouldn't get sued for. Imagine you walk into somebody's house and your feet just get cut because they dropped a bunch of glass and didn't feel like cleaning it. As Bo was cleaning it too, sure enough, he found that the GPU had snapped off at the motherboard, which is no bueno. Means that the motherboard is for sure broken, not 100% on the GPU, but I'm gonna guess that's not great for it either. And of course, when he realizes that the computer's screwed and it's gonna be a very expensive repair, he starts to regret it. But instead of like getting a job or something, he starts going to them and says they have to pay for it because he's an esport athlete and he needs it to work. And somehow it's their fault that it got broken. His logic was if they would have just like given him the attention when he said he was going to break it and told him not to, then he wouldn't have, and therefore he would still have the computer. Which makes no sense to me, bro. Like, let me get this straight. They should have told you not to throw your PC down the stairs. You wouldn't have done it, even though you were dumb enough to already think it was going to be a good idea. And because you didn't get a warning, they need to pay for the damage you did to your own stuff. It's just not really adding up. And of course, they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to pay for your computer. That's the dumbest thing that we've ever heard. And he tried to like blackmail them and say, well, if you don't pay for this, then I'm going to move out and I'm going to tell all my friends not to come live here. And they said, are those really our options? Like, you're either going to force us to pay for something that we didn't break because you were irresponsible and broke it, or you're going to move out and no one that you're friends with will move in? And he was like, yes. And they said, okay, deal. Like, all right, fine, move out. And he was a little bit shocked by that, but being stubborn was like, fine, I can probably find a better deal anyways. So he moves out to go do esports stinkiness wherever, somewhere else, professional stinky boy. And apparently his other roommate situation didn't work out because about a week later, he shows back up with all of his stuff and is like, hey, I need to move back in. And they had already gone out and gotten another roommate, this time somebody that they all knew a little bit better. So there was nowhere for him to go. So they had to have the very awkward situation of telling him that like he couldn't stay there. And when I say he had all of his stuff, I mean like everything all packed up, ready to move back in. But I feel like that's something you might want to double check on. Also, how did you get kicked out of your other place in a week? Like, even at this place, he managed to last a little bit. Maybe at the other place, he's like, I'm just going to be myself straight from the start. That way they know what they're getting themselves into. And they were like, oh, this guy never showers or cleans up anything. And for some reason, he keeps trying to sprinkle shards of glass in everywhere we walk. He says it's for fending off robbers, but I just keep cutting my foot whenever I want to go get a drink of water. And so they have this very awkward encounter, and he's like, look, I don't even need my room back. I just want to sleep on the couch. And they're like, no, we don't really want you to be back here. Last time you tried to force us to pay for the computer. And he looks at them and dead seriously goes, yeah, you still owe me money for the computer, which is terrible negotiation, even if you feel like they owed you. If they're already apprehensive to let you in because they felt like that was unfair, maybe right then is not the time to be like, oh, by the way, you guys still owe me money for the PC, because they just closed the door on him and he did not have a place to stay. And then they watched on the Ring doorbell and he called in Uber, and then the Uber pulled up and the car was too small to put all the stuff in it, so we had to order another Uber. Just a very awkward, insane situation. Overall, not really sure what Bo's plan is if the whole esport thing doesn't work out. Especially now that he doesn't have a computer. Maybe that's why he's so bent on finding someone to pay for it. He's like, man, I just need one of these games to go right. Probably not though, Bo. It sounds like you're maybe lacking in a few other areas. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section what you thought. Go ahead and comment the word gamer down below if you enjoyed this video. If you like these but you want to listen to them offline, I do post them in podcast form. You can find a link to the Spotify down below, but we're on Apple Podcasts now too, baby. And if you really want to help me out, I've got the Karen Christmas sweater just in time for Christmas, so feel free to check that out. Link will be in the pinned comment down below. And yeah, on that note, I'm going to go hang out. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today, I've got some story times that have been sent in to me about people's insane neighbors. I know you guys tend to really love these, so I figured I'd do another one. Before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, your neighbor will become insane. And without further ado, let's hop right into it. Alright, so this first one was sent in to me by a guy that has lived in this neighborhood since he was a baby. His parents already had the house before he was born, so he's just continued living in the house. And for the most part, the neighborhood hadn't changed much. But a new guy had moved in about 3 doors down and had taken it upon himself to make some, interesting, let's just put it that way, design choices with his front yard. He went and took a bunch of old toilets from the dump, or I don't know where you find old toilets, but imagine a bunch of old toilets, and then he had put them in his yard, and he had filled them with dirt, so there was plants growing out of the toilet in the top of the toilet. Which, whatever, yeah, it's a funny idea, I get it, you know, you're repurposing a toilet to be a planter. But at the same time, I could understand why maybe your neighbors would not enjoy you having a toilet garden in your front yard. And people were not that hyped about it, and at first, they were kind of just asking him nicely to maybe move the toilet planters to the backyard, or just a little bit away from the road. And his response to them just kind of nicely asking him to move the toilets to the backyard was to get pissed and say that he was going to make the ugliest house ever. And they weren't demanding that he move the toilets. It's his property. Technically, they can be there. It's not like there was a legal thing they could do. But then he just decides to paint his house. And you'd think he'd hire a company to do it. No. He goes, gets as many neon different types of spray paint you could imagine, and just starts going in on his house. So now, not only is there a toilet garden out front, but the house is just it looks like somebody bought a bunch of highlighters, left them in their pockets, and then put their pants in the dryer. It's just a train wreck. It looks just almost like a Jason Pollock painting. It's not that great. And so people then start being all right, dude, you really gotta stop. What you're doing is gonna hurt the neighborhood. Come on, can't you just be reasonable and not make your house look like this? And he decided that to teach them a lesson now, not only for asking him to move the toilets, but to maybe paint his house a normal color, that he was gonna not let anyone sleep anymore. If you were near his house, then you were in for a very rough time if you wanted to enjoy sleeping. He put spotlights on his house that shine outward, and they basically shined into people's windows, so it was just bright all night. And then they couldn't really prove this, but it seemed like every hour he would go out and blow a dog whistle, so every dog would lose their mind. And it got to the point where people were like, dude, my neighbor is straight up waging psychological warfare on me because I don't want to live next to the toilet garden. And it seemed like the more people asked him to relax, the worse he would make it. He started adding more lights. He started adding things that would make noise. And he clearly had way too much time on his hands because you're not allowed to like make loud noises past a certain hour. So he would make a ton of noise and then listen on the police scanner because people would call the cops and he would turn it all off. So when the cops come, there's nothing there and they're like confused and he's telling them that the neighborhood's crazy and they all hate him. And they're still going through this. Like, to this day, he's still having all these noise-making machines and all the lights. Thankfully, the person that sent this to me is 3 doors down, so it's affected them a little bit, but not as bad as it would be to live next door to the guy. I feel like this is the type of person that's just wanting to be angry with the world. Like, you know what you're doing if you put a bunch of toilets in your front yard. I'm all for freedom. I love it, man. Like, hey, freedom is the greatest. But you know your neighbors are not going to like that. And then to start a war with them over it, it kind of seems like you might have been wanting the war in the first place. I'm just saying, this guy seems like he wanted trouble when he moved into the neighborhood. Okay, so this next one was sent in to me by somebody that had just moved into a duplex. And they happen to be on the downstairs unit, which is unfortunate because you're just always going to hear the person above you. Even if it's the quietest person of all time, it's just the reality of living beneath someone is there's going to be times where they make a ton of noise. But for whatever reason, the person that lived above him must have just been a vampire who was only allowed to make noise at night and it was their passion. Like, straight up, he started wondering if the guy had been cursed to just live eternally trying to eat people or whatever. He was so loud every single night. It was like he was throwing a rave in his apartment in between the hours of like 11 p.m. and 4 p.m. to the point where he can't sleep because it's just loud music. It sounds like there's a crowd of 300 people up there. And it's not just a weekend. It's not like a Friday, one crazy party. It's every single night. It was like throwing parties in his apartment was literally his job somehow. So one night, he had had enough. He hadn't been able to sleep in like a week, and he goes up to confront him, and he pounds on the door all angrily, you know, in his head, he's worked himself up. He's like, I can't believe this guy thinks that it's okay to just not let anyone sleep. And all of a sudden, he can hear this huge party on the other side. It goes silent. He sees like all the lights turn off, and the door kind of cracks open. And you know, like those chains that people have, it opens just that much where you can't see in very far. And everything's dark now, like all the lights are off and it's silent. And no one's saying anything. He can just kind of see his neighbor's face, like through that little crack in the door. And he says, hey man, I'm your downstairs neighbor, and I just want to know if you can keep it down because you're really, really loud. Like, I can't sleep. You're making such a racket. You do it every single night. I wouldn't even care if it was every now and then, but like, this is out of control. And the guy looks at him, looks him up and down, and then hisses. And when he hisses at him, he like shows his teeth. And sure enough, the guy had gotten, you know that dental thing where you can have like fangs put in where your teeth are sharp? This guy had gone to a dentist and said, sir, please turn me into a real vampire. Give me those sharp teeth. So the door closes and all of a sudden it goes loud again. And he's just standing there like, well, that was not how I expected that to go. I expected him to at least hear me out or something. Plus, you know, even if your neighbor's gonna be a jerk about making noise, you think he would at least be like, get lost, I'm not gonna do anything. You don't expect another human to hiss at you, showing off that they have fangs and then slam the door. Like, what is this? What we do in the shadows, dude? Like an energy vampire is gonna pop up? No, thank you. You don't want that. So he goes downstairs, tries to go to bed, finally ends up falling asleep, and he had the day off the next day, so he sleeps in. And he wakes up, goes to his car, goes grocery shopping, comes back, and he realizes that there's like a note on his door. And he looks at it, and the note says that I'm a creature of the night and will not be tamed. Do not disturb me while I partake in my vampire ways. Next time I will not be so like courteous to your issues. And now he's starting to get scared because he's like, oh, this dude actually thinks he's a vampire. You know, at first he thought it was maybe a joke. He's just really committed to being like a Hot Topic guy. No, this guy is leaving letters being like, don't disturb me at night or I will become an angry vampire. Like, you don't want to live under somebody that nuts. So he decides that he's going to leave it alone. Like, yeah, it sucks to live underneath this guy. He hates that he's making noise. But the second somebody starts leaving threatening letters being like, I'm actually a vampiric demon, and you don't want to mess with me or you're gonna regret it. Yeah, they're not a vampire, but do you want to find out what someone crazy enough to think they're a vampiric demon will do to make you regret messing with them? Because I don't. It just seems like something I don't need to cross off the bucket list. If somebody's like, hey, I'm really nuts, you don't want to go start a bunch of beef with them. So whatever, he's just kind of like avoided it because he doesn't want to end up in a situation where he's in a true crime documentary. And he hasn't interacted with them since, but sure enough, every night still, it's like this guy is throwing a rave in his apartment, you know. And there's only 2 units, so it's not even like he can team up with everybody else in the building because they're all hearing it too. It's literally him and the other guy. So if he says something to the landlord, it's 100% obvious who snitched. And do you really want to be on the crap list of the guy who really thinks he's a vampire? And what's wild is he's kind of just been paying more attention since he realized the guy actually thinks he's a vampire to be like, all right, well, how committed is he to this? Like, is this just something he does when, you know, he's trying to scare people or what? And the dude straight up just does not come outside during the day. He has never seen him outside during the day. The only time he goes outside is night. And sure enough, there's just always a party there. But what's really weird about that is there's never like a huge group of cars. It's never like a huge sign that there's a bunch of people there. So he doesn't know if this guy's just running in circles, making it sound like there's a bunch of people there, or if a bunch of bats are flying into the attic. Obviously not really vampires, but he just does not really know what's going on. Whatever it is, it freaked him out, and he's just gonna leave it alone. And he's looking for another place to live, which is just probably your best bet at that point. Like, I feel like you don't want to live under the vampiric demon. Because even if they're lying, like, you do really want to live under the guy who thinks he's a vampiric demon. Good luck, though, man. Best of luck. I feel like even if I was a vampire, partying every night would get kind of exhausting. Every night, you never want to have a night to just relax, watch some TV. Maybe that's the point of immortality, is you're kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to do whatever I want all the time because there's no consequences. But goodness, after like a week of partying, I'm sure I would literally be like, I feel like garbage. I don't even want to do anything else. All right, so this next one was sent in to me by a guy who lives in a dorm room. And I don't know what it is about dorm rooms, but I feel like that's the worst roommates that I get sent on a regular basis. And the guy on the other side of the wall, who doesn't live in the dorm with them, but is in the dorm next to them, has some anger issues. The first few weeks of school, everything was fine, you know, and then all of a sudden at 8 p.m. one day, this guy just starts raging. Here's him screaming about how, like, everyone else is hacking because there's no way he would actually lose. The only way he was going to be able to lose at this game is if everyone was cheating. And the guy's just kind of, like, letting him rage, doesn't want to go over there and say anything, and figures he'll tire himself out pretty quick. Everyone's gotten mad at a video game before, and, like, I don't know, personally, even if I get mad at a video game, it's hard to stay really mad at a video game. Like, I'm not going to think about it later. But this guy spends the next, like, 25 minutes just raging, hitting on the wall, screaming that this game is so unfair and he'll just uninstall it. To the point where he's like, dude, this guy just needs to really not play this game. Like, usually when you tell someone to uninstall, you're trying to talk trash. But if you're letting a game affect you so much that you're raging, punching the wall in your dorm room for like half an hour, you probably just shouldn't. Whatever, after the 25 minutes though, he quiets down, thinks there's no way he'll get that mad again. So he goes to bed, and about 3 a.m., he starts hearing the same rage on the other side of the wall. And it's one thing to hear, like, somebody you live next to freaking out at 3 p.m. It's still not great, but I guess you're allowed to make noise. If you start freaking out banging on the wall in a dorm room at 3 a.m., it's perfectly okay for the people that live next to you to get pissed off. So this time, when it wakes him up, he gets annoyed, because obviously you don't want to be woken up by somebody raging at a video game. So he gets up and walks out of his dorm and starts banging on their door. And it goes quiet, and he's waiting for someone to come answer the door, and he's just kind of sitting there, like, waiting, and no one comes to answer. It's almost like the guy realized that someone was coming to bang on the door to tell him to be quiet, and he was too afraid to come answer it. So after he's waiting for a while, he decides he's gonna go back to bed. And so he goes back into his room, and he hears the guy on the other side of the wall, like, still saying some stuff about video games. And because he can hear this guy talking, he knows he's going to be able to hear him. So he just kind of loudly says that, like, hey man, you need to shut up. And if I wake up at 3 a.m. again because you're mad at a stupid video game, we're going to have some problems. And it's like, I'm not going to like you, and I'm just going to go out of my way to be as annoying as humanly possible. I don't care if you rage, but you can't wake people up about your video games. And after that, dude, it was like he was afraid of confrontation because he would rage and whatnot, but as soon as nighttime hit, he would go quiet. Thankfully, he learned his lesson. But that was not a very fun wake-up call, dude. You're just, what do people dream about these days? I don't know, you're having a great dream about driving a Bugatti down the road. All of a sudden, you get a wake-up call because some guy can't take Fall Guys not seriously and is freaking out because everyone's hacking to try to take away his Fall Guy wins. You get woken up from your slumber because somebody is bad at, like, Wii bowling. That's just the worst. I feel like dorm stories are the things I get the most often, and I don't know if it's just because, like, it's the first time people get freedom so they don't know how to act, or if people who are going to college these days are just a little bit more entitled. Not every dorm is like this, but goodness gracious, at least twice a week, someone's like, oh, I live in a dorm and my roommate is basically psycho. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me was out in front of their house skateboarding one day, and most cars would just kind of come by at like 25 miles per hour. I feel like that's the generic speed limit in most neighborhoods, and it makes sense, especially if there's like people in the road. There's no reason to speed in a neighborhood. And on top of it, when you see someone in the road, like, you should go extra slow. But he's out in front of his house skating, and this minivan comes flying around the corner going like 45. So he yells out, slow down, as it drives by, and the minivan, like, slams on the brakes, and it goes past him a little bit. It throws into reverse and reverses back up towards him, and he gets out of the way because, like, it almost hits him. And the door opens up, and this Karen jumps out of the car. And, like, the speed with which she reversed and jumped out of the car, it was almost like she had done this before. She had dismounted this minivan many a time. And she says, what did you just say to me? And he's like, I said slow down. There's no need to be speeding. You almost hit me. And Karen starts going off about how, like, she bets that this guy can't even drive, so who does he think he is to tell them to slow down? And the guy's response is just like, okay, even if I can't drive because I'm too young to have my license, I still know if you're going too fast. It doesn't mean that I can't tell you not to speed when I'm out in the road and you almost hit me. It doesn't take a genius to know if someone's going 45 in a 25. It's really obvious if someone is going too fast. And her response to him saying that is like, well, why are you even out in the road? It would have been your fault if I hit you. And, like, I don't really think that's how it works in a residential neighborhood. If you're speeding and you hit somebody, I don't think that's a very good excuse. Like, you can't go to court and be like, yeah, sure, I was going 45 and a 25, but why was someone out in the road in front of their house? Like, I feel like you're allowed to ride your bike in the road in front of your house. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't know. It wouldn't have been an issue if you weren't going that fast. And so this guy, trying to be responsible and, like, just get this lady to leave at this point, says, look, I'm just saying, slow down, because there's a lot of people around here like me and my friends that are just out in front of their house riding skateboards or whatever, and I just don't want anyone to get hit. He's trying to be the mature one, and that's a reasonable thing to say. Like, okay, look, whatever. Yeah, I guess you can speed if you want. And she starts going off saying, well, if she wants to speed, that's her choice, and she doesn't need to listen to anything he says. And he's like, yeah, I guess you don't have to listen to anything I say. That's true. I never said that I was king of the road. And she's like, yeah, you're not king of the road. And she goes, hops back in her minivan, and goes to, like, very aggressively peel out of there. You can hear her foot, like, stomp the gas. The only issue was she had been in reverse last time she had, like, pulled up. Remember, she reversed back. And she had forgotten that she was in reverse. So when she slams her foot down on the gas, instead of going forward and peeling out of there, she goes backwards. And for whatever reason, she cuts to the wheel. And so she goes flying off the side of the road into a parked car that was, like, right there. And of course, the irony of all of this happening right after she said she can do what she wants and he can't drive, so he has no right to say that they shouldn't be speeding. Like, it was just a very ironic situation. So the person that sent this to me starts laughing at it because that's almost straight out of a comedy movie. Someone starts talking about how great of a driver they are and then forget their car's in reverse. That's a pretty simple thing that you should double check before you go slamming on the gas, especially if you're just telling someone to shut up and not tell you how to drive. So he's laughing, the person who was driving the car is pissed, so Karen gets out and starts trying to say somehow that this entire accident is his fault, and because he was laughing at her, she was going to find a way to make him liable, and like the insurance was gonna blame him somehow. I don't think insurance companies do that, especially if you say, hey, I forgot I was in reverse and crashed into a car. They're gonna be like, that's on you, we're not covering anything. And they especially wouldn't care if you were like, no, you don't understand, someone laughed right after. They would be like, okay, what about it? We're not gonna go sue the person that laughed at you and say it's their fault. So she's screaming about how it's all his fault and she's gonna find a way to blame him. And the person whose car it was comes outside and starts being like, dude, you hit my car. And so the kid who sent this to me, like, obviously this is a little bit ago, he's an adult now. He goes inside because he just didn't know what to do. Now he knows you're supposed to stay and make a statement or whatever, but he just didn't want to deal with it. So he went inside, and after they like exchanged insurance information or whatever, the lady came over and started knocking on the door, yelling that like he was a bad kid and she wanted to talk to his parents to let them know how disappointed they should be. Yeah, because he said don't speed, and you got your ego bruised, and then proceeded to forget you were in reverse and crash into a car. I don't really understand how that's his fault. But whatever, she tried to, like, get a response. No one responded. And after that, she ended up leaving. And I feel like, you know, like, it's one thing to be a bad driver, okay? But it's one thing to not realize you're a bad driver. I feel like you should know if you're in reverse, drive, park, neutral. That's something you should check before you just start slamming on the gas. That's an obvious one. And if you're not paying attention to that, then you really should not be driving too fast. Speeding is always against the law, like if someone catches you, right? But you really should not be speeding if you don't even know if your car's in reverse or not. I feel like that is just a given. Don't be flying around if you can't even tell which way your car's gonna go. But what made it even funnier is because she lived in his neighborhood, like he would see her after that and she would always just avoid eye contact and drive by slowly. So she did learn not to speed. It just took accidentally crashing into a car because she forgot which way the car was going to go. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate it if y'all would take a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you want to listen to these in like audio format, like a podcast, I do post them over on Spotify, link down below. Feel free to check it out. And 12 Days of Scrubs is quickly approaching, so be on the lookout for that in December. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What is going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time I haven't told before here on the channel about this dude who like tried to buy/steal my computer because his mom was super rich. Not really sure why you would need to like buy someone's laptop off of them if your mom's a billionaire, but hey, whatever. Apparently it happens. Thought you guys would enjoy the story time, so yeah, before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, your laptop will get stolen by a spoiled, entitled person. And here is last video's comment of the day. Big thank you to everyone that comments, and without further ado, let's go. Alright, so this happened a few years ago, back when I was still at college. I was in the library with a couple of my friends trying to study, and I had to pee. And so I got up and I left my laptop at the table. And I know people say, like, never leave your stuff, never leave your backpack, never leave your laptop at the library. And that's good advice. You should never leave it unattended. But because me and all my friends were sitting at a table together talking, I assumed it would be fine, so I just left my stuff and went to the bathroom. Get to the bathroom, go pee. Nothing really fascinating about that part of the story. I apologize. But when I walk back out of the bathroom and start walking back over to my friends, I'm a little bit confused because I see someone standing in front of the chair that I was sitting in. And I look at my friends' faces, and you know when you can tell that they're not hyped about whoever is in front of them? Like, you know, you ever seen someone who has an annoying person at work or whatever, and when they walk up and start talking, you can see the light just drain out of their eyes? If you've ever seen What We Do in the Shadows before, good show, but there's this thing called like an energy vampire. That was kind of the vibe. Whatever was talking to them, whoever was talking to them was just not very good for the enthusiasm of my friend group. So I walk back over and I get more confused the closer I get. Because not only is he standing in front of where I was sitting, but he has my laptop in his hands and he's kind of like spinning it around. And I don't really like that because it's my laptop. You shouldn't be touching it. So I start walking over faster because I don't know this guy. He's touching my stuff. My friends kind of look like they're in an awkward situation. And I walk back up and I definitely don't know him the closer I get. It's not like I magically just realize it's my cousin or something. So I grab my laptop and say, hey, don't touch my stuff, bro. Because I feel like that's just common sense. You shouldn't touch anyone's stuff, especially if you don't know them. Like, I don't know, especially electronics. It's kind of like if a stranger just picked up your phone and started looking at it. It's not that there's anything bad on my phone. It's just you're a stranger and that's an electronic, like, expensive piece of equipment you got there. I'm not trying to have strangers touch it. Especially the laptop I'm using for schoolwork, bro. Like, just don't touch my stuff. So I was holding my laptop now because I had pulled it out of his hands and I asked him, what are you doing with my stuff? Like, why were you holding my stuff? And he looks at me almost like I'm annoying him by asking this question. I just have the gall, the nerve, the absolute audacity to question why this guy would need to be holding my laptop for some reason. I feel like that's a fair question. And he rolls his eyes and says, oh, is it yours? And I'm like, yeah, it's my laptop. And he reaches back to kind of grab it from me after I had grabbed it in the first place. And I pull it back kind of into my chest because I'm not going to give it to him. And he looks at me and says, well, that was rude. How is it rude if I come back and you're grabbing my stuff, I grab it back, and then I'm not just going to hand it back to you? Oh, it's yours, and then you just try to grab it? That's not an explanation of who you are or why I should let you, like, touch my stuff or what's going on. I didn't realize grabbing my laptop was rude. I didn't know that holding your things is considered unpleasant. So I just tell him I don't like people touching my stuff and to stop. And he looks at me, puts his hands on his hips like he's about to do the most nice, kind, biggest favor of my life. He's about to do something that I should be appreciative for. And he says, that's about to be my laptop now. I'll give you $250 for it. And I'm not saying that it was some like elite gaming laptop that could have mined cryptocurrency while playing Warzone and rendering a video or anything. But it was definitely more than a $250 laptop, and on top of that, like, I literally used the laptop for school, so even if that was a good offer, I need it. It's not like I can really go buy a new, better computer for the amount of money you offered me, and I don't really want to have to set up a new computer. You know how much of a pain in the butt that is? So I kind of laugh and say, no, sorry, man, like, not a good deal. And he starts to whine and complain. I think in his mind, he thought he was doing like a bartering thing and says, come on, I really need a laptop. And I'm sure he did need a laptop. Obviously, he's out in the library talking to strangers, trying to buy laptops off of them. But no, my laptop is not for sale, and I don't really care that you really need a laptop. It doesn't change anything for me. And so I said, no, it's just not for sale. And he looks at me with like this smug look and says, there has to be some way to work it out. What dollar amount would make it work? And I just looked at him and said, $1 million or it's not for sale. And when I said that, his entire demeanor changed. It went from like some just spoiled kid who I didn't know if he knew how to make friends, walking up and grabbing my stuff, like trying to act normal or anything. But it got super sketchy. Like, he started looking around almost like he was judging to see how many people were watching or anything. And I'm not saying that I'm, like, an expert at reading people, but my spidey senses started tingling. Not that they're great, but you know when you just have that feeling, like, in your gut that something weird is about to go down? And he reaches over, rips the laptop out of my hand, and goes to start running. And my other friend, who was sitting on the corner of the table we were all grouped up at, he pops up and kind of stands in front of the guy, and he goes to turn sideways and run past him. And as he turns sideways and starts running past my friend, he reaches his hands out, grabs the laptop, rips it back into his hands, so we have the laptop. And the kid who was just trying to steal it kind of realizes that, oh, I don't have it anymore, and if I turn around and try to grab it, like all my friends had popped up on that point, so he just keeps running, turns around by the door and like flips us off and says that we weren't cool for not giving him the laptop. yeah, sorry that you don't live in a Grand Theft Auto server. I'm not just gonna let you take my laptop. And honestly, I should have held on to it. I knew something sketchy was gonna go down. I just didn't expect him to grab it out of my hands and start running, like in the middle of the library. Now I'd be aware. I'm extra on guard in a library now. But like at the time, I don't know. You don't expect someone to just grab it out of your hands in the college library and take off. So my friend looks at it. It's not like it was broken or anything. Like we just all are sitting there thinking about how weird that was. And then they start telling me that he had walked up when I was at the bathroom and started telling them about how rich he was and how his mom was this billionaire who was giving him all this money to go here and try to make friends with normal people who were poorer than him. Weird way to make friends, bro. I don't really think people enjoy when you tell them that, even if your mom is a billionaire. And then he started talking about how he wants to buy my laptop. And that's automatically red flags, because if your mom's a billionaire, you're definitely not walking around the college library asking to buy people's laptops off of them. I don't know. Maybe like your mom's not spoiling you, but I feel like if they're already going to send you to college, they're definitely going to get you a laptop. So whatever. He's kind of telling this story about how his mom's a billionaire and has all this money. And then he picked up my laptop, and that's when they started getting sketched out too. And it was a good thing I came back because they didn't know what was about to go down, and they didn't know if I knew him or not because he was like, oh yeah, I know the guy. So whatever, my friends probably should have done something sooner, but they did stop him from stealing the laptop at the end of the day, and I didn't really know that he was going to grab it out of my hands either, so it'd be weird if I got super pissed off about it. But that guy, that's who I was super pissed off at. Oh, my mom's a billionaire, I'm going to steal your laptop. Dude, then you've got some issues. Like, if your mom's a billionaire and you're still roaming around trying to steal laptops from strangers, you're just a kleptomaniac at that point. Ah, this laptop's about to be mine. I'll give you half of what you paid for it. Like, no, man, sorry. I understand you might come from money, but that's not really how it works. No one wants to give you a deal like that. All right, I got more story times for y'all today, but on screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video to say thank you to everyone that subscribes, turn on notifications, and presses that like button. So go ahead and smash the like button. I'd appreciate it. And if you're already subscribed with notifications on, you're a legend, and let's get back to the video. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me works at a gas station, and it just so happens that there was like a huge winter storm, so their outdoor card readers weren't working, and so you had to come like pay inside. And it sucks, it's unfortunate, but technology is gonna do technology things sometimes, and obviously this worker wouldn't choose this. You really think the worker was sitting there like, oh yeah, in the middle of bad weather, I'm gonna make everyone that stops for gas come inside. They're gonna be so happy to deal with me. But there's a big line because people need gas. It's not like they can really go anywhere else. It's one of the only one for miles. And so there's a little bit of a line. And a guy comes in freaking out. Oh, I had to come inside. I couldn't pay at the pump. I had to walk all the way in here. And the way that he's explaining it, dude, you would have thought he was explaining some like flashback he was having, as if walking back through the snow was just the most intense, worst thing he's ever experienced in his life. And I'm sure it sucked. But walking into a gas station and loudly acting like it's the most insane thing in your entire life when you live in a place that gets snow is just bizarre. And so he just walks up to the front of the line and like tries to cut everyone and says da-da-da on pump blank. And the worker and his boss were pretty close, and the boss owned the establishment, and he had said that like if anyone starts trying to cause problems, just handle it. And so when he walks up and tries to skip the line, he says, oh, you think you can just skip the line? And the look on the dude's face, it was almost like he had never literally thought about the fact that you have to wait in line sometimes in his life. Like it had just never crossed his mind. The way his face was shaped, you would have thought he has a fast pass at the DMV. He's never had to wait for anything in his life. And he literally looks at the worker and says, I have to wait in line? But it wasn't like, oh, I have to wait in line. It was as if they had just asked him to go back out there and shovel snow for free. And so the worker looks at this dude who is somehow very confused at the concept of waiting in line and says, yeah, you need to get in line. And he turns around and starts walking to the end of the line, which is where you have to get in line. And the entire time he's complaining, oh, it's so far from the front of the line. It's going to take me forever to get gas now. And like literally whined the entire time he was waiting in line. And unfortunately, the person that worked there couldn't really leave, but like the relief on people's face when they were done paying and got to walk out of there because they didn't have to listen to this dude whining anymore was hilarious. Like you could visibly see the relief. Sure enough, he gets to the front, pays, leaves. But the worker just couldn't believe that he was so committed to complaining. Like, he really came in, tried to cut the line. I feel like that's something very obvious. If you walk in somewhere and there's a ginormous line of people, why would you just assume you can walk to the front? And on top of it, I feel like loudly complaining in public might be one of my biggest pet peeves of all time. Like, hey, I'm a complaining person. I used to have a YouTube channel where I just complained about stuff. But you don't loudly do it in public, because guess what? Nobody else wants to hear that garbage, I promise you. They're just all out and about trying to get gas and go home. All right, so we were talking about a snowstorm in the last story. This guy lives in a place where there just happens to be not a lot of, like, insane winter weather. It's not a place where you got to worry about slipping and sliding on the way to your car on ice, slipping and sliding on ice in your car. This person that we're about to talk about is just a horrible driver. He's kind of cruising, doing his thing, and he sees on his left side, like in his rearview mirror, this Mercedes, you know how you can tell from the front of him sometimes, comes flying up. And he's like, wow, that guy's going really fast. Not that the person that sent this to me was insanely speeding or anything, but they were going a little bit above the speed limit. So if this guy's flying by them, you do the math, they're going incredibly quickly. And he's also really concerned because he looks up and he sees that the light in front of them has turned yellow, which means that it's about to be red. So he starts to slow down, but this Mercedes that's going past him does not slow down. And the light turns red and the Mercedes slams on the brake, starts going through the intersection, and thankfully nobody else had started going yet. Like, they hadn't had time to really, get going into the traffic, so he didn't hit anyone. But it blows through, kind of careens off the side of the road a little bit, and smacks a fire hydrant. And like in a movie or something, the water just starts shooting out of this fire hydrant. And so the person who sent this to me pulls over behind the car and gets out to be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? But as he starts approaching the car, he hears like the engine trying to work, and he's confused, and he sees that the car's trying to get into reverse and pull away. So he gets back in his car because clearly this person's not trying to stick around, and the last thing he wants to happen is to get smacked by the car that he's trying to go make sure everyone's okay in. And the Mercedes somehow gets like unstuck and then peels off. They take off out of there. And so after that point, he gets out with a few other people, and he realizes that somebody else has already called and reported it, to come fix the fire hydrant and what happened. But whoever this was had like been speeding, not paying attention, smacked the fire hydrant, and then gone as fast as humanly possible. So whatever, he goes on home because someone else had called. They were coming to take care of it. No reason for him to be there. But he's was sitting on the couch watching the news later that night, and the news story pops up that it was a 23-year-old who had stolen his dad's car, who was a doctor, and taken it on a joyride. And his dad had called and turned him in because his son had just taken the car home and tried to say that nothing had happened. Keep in mind, it's wrecked. Like, it's not like the car was in a great shape. It barely got out of there. So this grown man, took this car back to his doctor dad, destroyed, and was like, yeah, nothing happened. I have no clue. That's how it was when I took it. And his dad called in and was like, hey, did anything happen with the Mercedes? And they told him, yeah, somebody smacked into a fire hydrant. So there's that. Overall, don't steal your parents' car. And I don't know, I feel like if the light turns yellow, slowing down if you're far away isn't complicated. I feel like driving is one of those things that people make way more complicated than it is. If you just follow the basic rules, it's not that hard. This next one was funny to me because it was like a reverse Karen situation, right? So this lady goes into this restaurant she goes to all the time, never has any issues. The waitstaff's always super nice. She always tips well. It's not like there's any pre-existing beef. If anything, she goes there because she's more of a regular. And off the rip, she gets sat down and the waiter comes over and he seems really annoyed, pissed off, just off the beginning before anything's even said. And so whatever, sometimes people working in the service industry, they have a bad day. So she's not going to cause any problems about it. She's not going to complain. So she orders the things she gets regularly, and because she's there all the time and she orders it a lot, she's very aware of what it comes with and how it's supposed to come. Not because she's a know-it-all or anything, but she orders this all the time. It'd be the equivalent of every week you get something, you know what it's supposed to look like, you know what it's supposed to taste like. Well, the food comes out and it's missing one of the sides. And she hadn't asked for anything from the waiter or anything, she wasn't being demanding, and very nicely she says, hey, excuse me, usually this has a side of did they change the menu? She's not even saying you got it wrong, all she's saying is, maybe I'm wrong. Pretty fair, right? Not aggressive. This waiter starts going off. Oh, you think you know the menu better than me? I don't know who you think you are. I'm tired of people in this job trying to act like they know better. And the lady's just sitting there like, that's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm just asking if the side that usually comes with this still comes with this. There's no further meaning of it there. I'm not trying to say you're bad at your job. I'm not trying to say you're good at your job. I'm just asking if I can get my side. And the waiter is like, you know what? I'm done. I'm over this job. I'm over this crap. I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here. And now the lady's confused because he's just like venting to her like she's a therapist or something. And so she's kind of like, all right, I guess you don't have to be here. She didn't know what to say in that situation. What do you do if someone's just going off on you, being like, I don't even need this job? Like, okay, I guess. Not even like an angry okay, just okay. And he takes off his apron thing and like throws it on the ground and storms out. And the manager walks over and is like, hi, what happened? And so she starts explaining it to the manager. And you would think the manager would be a little bit confused because that's not a normal situation. But the manager literally goes, oh yeah, he does this every couple months. It's okay, I'll get you your side. And goes and gets it. Every few months? You mean you guys take him back after this? I'm just saying, I feel like if I owned a restaurant, which I don't, and I don't want to own a restaurant, and somebody was like freaking out on customers once every 3 months because they had a bad day, I just feel like maybe the restaurant industry is not for them. Apparently for this place, they're like, whatever, we need the help bad enough, just bring him back. It's only one customer every 3 months. I like those numbers. All right, so this next one, this guy used to have this Nerf whistle football, and one day they're playing with it, and he sees one of the kids that lives in his neighborhood take it, put it in his pocket, and walk away. And he yells at him, hey, give me my football back, but he keeps walking, and he starts running, and he gets home before he can, catch up with him. So he goes up to the door and starts knocking on the door, thinking the kid's gonna answer. But the dad comes and answers and is like, hi, how can I help you? And so he tells him, hey, I have this whistling football. Your kid took it. He has it in his pocket. Can I have it back? And I feel like I'm not a parent, but if your kid takes something from somebody, it's probably like a good time to teach them a lesson about why that's very wrong and you shouldn't do that. And hopefully they just don't do that, right? But this dad kind of does the most immature possible thing in this situation and is like, oh, well, is your name on it? And he's like, doesn't really know how to answer because that's not what he was expecting this dad to say. And then says, well, I guess it's our football now. And he starts trying to argue back and forth with this grown man about like, dude, just give me my football back. Like, your kid took my football, just give it back. And he keeps being like, no, it's ours now. Sorry. And then eventually slams the door in his face. And so the person who's lost their Nerf football is like, I don't know what to do now, bro. So they go to tell their parents. And it's not like they're snitching, but a grown man shouldn't be arguing with a kid on why they're allowed to steal his Nerf football. Like, what do you mean, bro? And so his parents come back over and they start getting into an argument because he's trying to be all smug and say, well, they have no proof that it's their Nerf football. And so he says something like, did you write your name on it? And this time the kid remembers that, yes, actually, on one of the fins on the back, my name is on it. So they go get the football, and sure enough, his initials are there, and it looked like they had tried to maybe cover them up, but used the wrong marker or whatever. And so his parents snatched the whistle football out of the hand, and the dad's like, well, these things happen, you know, how are we supposed to know? Probably because the kid repeatedly said it's his. Your kid admitted that he took it, and you knew he took it, but whatever, man, you waited until they could prove their name was written on it. And then he said, all right, now get off my property, and closed the door and just kind of kicked them off the property, which is pretty insane, man. Imagine getting mad at people because they come to get the stuff you stole from them back, you know? And after that, they super avoided them in the neighborhood, like went above and beyond to not even say hi if they drove past each other and whatnot, probably because he was embarrassed that he was almost involved in getting a stolen Nerf whistle football back into the house. And this last one's a goodie. Well, not a goodie for him, but a goodie to listen to, all right? So he was at a family Christmas party, and he has a cousin who's 26 years old, and he's literally, like, shaking presents trying to figure out what's what. Not in an ironic, ooh, I hope it's another pair of socks way, but, like, really, really pressed about making sure he gets everything on his list. Which, you know, it's fine to be excited for Christmas, but when you're over a certain age, that's just a lot. That's just a lot. I'm not gonna lie. If it really brings you a lot of joy, then by all means, who cares? It's really not bugging anyone, but you could understand how to people who gave the presents when someone's there just shaking it, being like, what is it, what is it, what is it? It's annoying. And I also feel like at a certain age, your gifts, you know, they're still gifts, don't get it wrong, you're still grateful for them, but like the excitement isn't as there when I get a hoodie as it used to be when like I really cared about getting a new Lego set. I don't think a Lego set would bring me that same happiness today, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Whatever. Anyways, he ends up getting to open one present early because he's literally begging to, and his aunt's like, fine. And he opens it up, and it's a sweater, which is a fine present. I feel like if you're 26 years old, it's about what you should expect, you know? Like, I'm not 26, I'm 23. I don't expect a lot for Christmas anymore. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, that's just the reality of growing up. But he starts freaking out, throwing a fit about how it wasn't what he wanted, and that wasn't on his list, and he doesn't know why they bought this for him. And everyone kind of keeps trying to point out that, like, hey, man, like, hey, it's a gift. Like, just be grateful for it. There's no reason to act this way. And he keeps being like, no, this is dumb. No one took my list seriously. Why did I even make a spreadsheet if no one used it? Bro, you made a spreadsheet for your Christmas list and sent it out and expected people to use it. If someone sent me a spreadsheet, I would go out of my way to buy something not on the spreadsheet just because I'd be like, yeah, I'm not doing that, bro. Anyways, he keeps freaking out to the point where the entire family just doesn't really want him there anymore. Don't any there. What was that? And his aunts are like, we think it'd be better if you leave. And he doesn't even protest, goes, you're right, I want to go somewhere with better presents anyways, and gets up and leaves. And it's like, dude, man, you really had a bar set for yourself that I think is dramatically high on realistic expectations. Probably was wearing the sweater on the way home, like, I hate that this thing is cozy. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I know you guys said you like the shorter videos and like a longer form, so I did that today. So if you did enjoy it, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'd appreciate it. 12 Days of Scrubs is coming up. If you like these, but you'd rather listen to them in podcast form, I do post them over on Spotify, so feel free to check that out, link down below. And because it's the Christmas season, be sure to check out the Karen Christmas sweater. I'll put the link in the pinned comment down below, but you can really just have the coolest sweater on the block. Anyways, on that note, guys, I think that's really going to do it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys all have a good, Thanksgiving break or whatever. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What is going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Hope you guys are still enjoying December. You know, Santa Claus is only like 3 weeks away. Right now, he's just chain-smoking Marlboro Reds up in the North Pole, but eventually he'll get around to hopping on the sleigh. But until then, I have a story time that I think you guys are gonna really enjoy about an insane Karen that absolutely lost it on this lady at her own apartment complex. I feel like if you're gonna have a Karen moment, if you're gonna snap, if you're gonna go ballistic, you just want to make sure that you don't do it right next to your house. If you go nuts next to your house, then you're just always gonna be known as the nuts person, you know? Regardless, I thought you guys would enjoy it, so before we get into it, be sure to press the like button, or no joke, no scam. Next time you move into an apartment, your neighbor will be an absolute whack job. And, yeah, here's yesterday's comment of the day, and without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Alright, so the person that sent this into me, I'm gonna call Kim for the purpose of this story, and she had just bought a condo in this building. And she lives in like a big city, so there's tons of, you know, apartment buildings where people like buy the apartment. I know most small towns, it's more of like a renter thing, but she ended up buying this condo up on the 47th floor of the building, which is quite a long elevator ride. But Kim was a lawyer, you know, she just had a little bit too much legal bread laying around, just decided to splurge, live the high life, literally up on the 47th floor, good for you. And whatever, she's riding this elevator up and down because she has to get in between like the moving truck in the 47th floor, and it's taking a while. Obviously, the only way you can really do that is with the elevator, so there's a certain amount of stuff that she actually can bring up with her because like there's a weight limit on the elevator. You don't want the elevator to break and plummet 47 floors. So she would like load a mattress, 5 beds, 3 desks, a couch, 97 boxes, hop on, press the button, ride up with it, take it all off. And of course, people would be like, wow, that's obnoxious. No one else could use the elevator. There's 4 elevators, and on top of that, she's moving in. There's not much you can do. When you're moving into the 47th floor, you just gotta use the elevator. But whatever, she's loading this stuff up into the elevator one day, and as she's hopping on the elevator with all this stuff, a woman like pushes her way on, almost like imagine you were trying to squeeze your way into a sardine can. You
you would look at a sardine can and go, wow, those fish sure are in there. I probably can't fit there. But for whatever reason, this lady was like, oh, the elevator looks jam-packed. I'm going to squeeze in. You got nothing to lose. And so she hops onto this elevator, squeezes in with Kim, and there's boxes and stuff everywhere because, like I said, she's moving. And the Karen proceeds to be like, what, are you moving or something? And Kim kind of looks around, not really sure how to reply because she's surrounded with labeled moving boxes. You know when someone asks a question that's just so stupid that your brain needs like a 5-minute Windows processing moment to just think about what they said? That's what's going on because Kim's looking around like, yeah, of course I'm moving. What, do you think I like to spend my free time just collecting random moving boxes and sitting them in the elevator and then standing next to them? But she doesn't want to be rude to this lady that she just met in her apartment building, so instead of being like, that was an insanely dumb statement, she just says, yes, hi, I'm Kim, it's nice to meet you, and she reaches out to like shake hands. And Kim was on the left side of the elevator, this Karen lady's on the right, and there's some boxes like in between them. So she reaches over these boxes, and Karen, instead of being like, oh, great to meet you, welcome to the neighborhood, just goes, I don't care about your name. My name is Karen, and I'm head of the HOA. If you've never heard of an HOA, it's kind of like this organization that fancy apartment buildings or like fancy suburban neighborhoods will have, and it's like an organization in charge of keeping the neighborhood nice, which sounds fantastic. You're like, wow, they're gonna make sure that nobody lets a toilet sit in their front yard or whatever, and it sounds great until you realize that most HOAs just go out of their way to be annoying as possible and charge you money for it. Oh, yeah, we saw that you were grilling hot dogs. That's gonna be a no-no. The head of our HOA is actually that vegan teacher, so yeah, we're gonna have to ask you to throw away all sausage links. Kim's still standing in the corner though, not know what to say, because this lady just told her, I don't care what your name is, which is a weird thing to say when you meet someone, even if you don't care, like at least go, oh, it's great to meet you. So Kim just says, well, it's great to meet you. And then Karen proceeds to rant again about like, do you even know all of the HOA rules yet? There's a booklet online that you need to read before you even begin to move in. And Kim's being honest with her. She's like, no, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I was going to read it tonight. I've just been focused on moving, which I think is more than fair. I'm going to be honest. I definitely would not read the entire HOA pages. I know that Kim's a lawyer, so she probably will. But for me, I never read any of those HOA pages, ever, dude. I don't really care. I know it's irresponsible, but whatever. Kim kind of tells her, I haven't read it yet. Well, Karen took it as basically the most insulting thing you could possibly take it as. In her mind, not reading the HOA rules was about the equivalent of going to a nursing home, soaking it in kerosene and lighting it on fire. Old people burning, put your hands up. That's a really old YouTube reference. I hope people realize I wasn't actually thinking about a nursing home being on fire. Anyways, Karen and her are going back and forth about how it's super important to read the HOA contract, and unlike, myself, Kim can read, so she's like, fine, I'll read it tonight, but just leave me alone. And the Karen reluctantly is like, fine, I'll let you be for now, but you have 95 hours to read the rule book from the HOA, which is such an oddly specific amount of time. I feel like 24, 48, 72 hours, those all make sense. What's after that, 96? 95 hours? All right, you get 3 full days and then 23 hours in the last one. Why? Why is that last day so much shorter? Well, because, it's about compounding interest in the HOA rulebook, so it should take you less time the more days it goes on. Just some weird Karen explanation, but apparently she had 3 days and 23 hours to read this book. And Karen continues to say that she's irresponsible for not having read it already, and Kim literally looks at her at this point and is like, well, then I guess I'm irresponsible. Because this lady is just not leaving her alone. They're in the elevator together. I feel like the rules for etiquette on the elevator is you hop on, you press the button, and you shut up. But when Kim says, I can live with you thinking I'm irresponsible, Karen does not laugh. She literally turns her nose up. When people look away because they're just so disgusted? That's what she does, and she doesn't say anything. And so now they're just kind of standing in silence the way it should be when you're on the elevator, and it gets to the 47th floor, the door opens, and she kind of looks at the Karen to move because Karen has to move before Kim can get all of her stuff off. And Karen looks at the floor, looks back at Kim and goes, this isn't my floor. And Kim's like, okay, well, you didn't press any button, so it went to the button that was pressed, and that's my floor, so I don't know what to tell you. And Karen is like, well, why didn't you push my floor's button? Keep in mind, they've never met before. There is no way on earth for somebody that's never met you to know the floor you live on. Oh, what are you, 47, right? You look like a 444 type of guy. 40 floor, the flirtiest floor, the floriest floor. And so Kim says that, like, I literally just met you. How in the world would I know what floor you live on? And Karen just starts going off about how clearly Kim is inconsiderate because she could have asked. And, you know, it's just so rude that she wasn't even trying to go out of her way to help her neighbors. I don't know why you would assume that people are going to ask. And even then, let's throw Karen a bone. Let's say it's really rude to not ask the person in the elevator what floor to be on. Let's say that that's insanely rude. It's also still kind of on you to press the button if they don't ask. Like, you can't control other people being rude. You're going to go to the wrong floor in an elevator every time because you're too afraid to press the button yourself. I don't think the stranger is always going to remember to do it for you. And there's boxes in between Kim and, like, the button panel. She had pressed the button when she got on. So this Karen literally expected Kim to do like some Kim Possible, literally like parkour move, double backflip over the boxes, press the button, do like a triple somersault back over. There's no way that it would have been easy to press the button. So whatever, she's throwing a fit and like gets off the elevator all pissed off, presses the button for another one, and starts saying that Kim needs to watch her back. And Kim laughs because, like, dude, this lady is literally threatening me over the fact that I didn't press the elevator button. And so she ends up leaving. She goes on the elevator. Kim spends the rest of that day just moving into her apartment. And thankfully, it's all pretty uneventful. Nothing crazy happens. She doesn't even see Karen again. All right, guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. On screen now is a gift card code. I give one of these away in every video as a way to say thank you to y'all for subscribing and turning on those notifications. So if you haven't already, you should do that. If you already do, you're a legend. And since I've got your attention, be sure to press the like button, all right? I'm just asking, straight up. No reward, no punishment, just press it. The next event with Karen, though, came when one day Kim was going to park her car. And as she's getting out of the car, she sees the Karen, and Karen looks at her car and looks at her and looks at her car and looks at her and goes, "That's not your car." And Kim doesn't really know how to reply to that because it is her car. And like, how do you reply to someone saying that something you own isn't yours? And what's really confusing is it's not like she's rolling around in a Bentley or an Aston Martin, like something where you would be like, whoa, there's no way that's your car. It's a nice car, but it's nothing that would make you be like, oh, dude, this guy probably owns 5 NFL franchises. And like I said, it's weird to reply to someone that's like, that thing that you own just isn't yours. Like, what do you respond? Well, it is. And so Kim just says that like, hey, can you just leave me alone? I just want to go inside to my apartment. And Karen, once again, starts throwing around this whole, well, there's going to be problems thing. And she says that there's going to be problems unless Kim admits that the car isn't hers. And so Kim, being a lawyer, starts to use like legalese. You can't continue to threaten me like that. Like at this point, it's starting to constitute harassment because you're not leaving me alone. You're constantly trying to imply that something's going to go horribly wrong if I don't listen to you. Like, that's weird. So please leave me alone. Otherwise, like, this is harassment. It's getting annoying that every time I'm trying to get in the elevator or get out of my car, you're going to stand here and be like, answer my questions or else. Which may seem like overkill, but this Karen literally was just waiting in the garage for Kim to get home so she could be like, that's not your car. That's pretty weird. Do you have nothing else going on? You don't have any grandkids that want to visit or anything? Nope, just stand in the parking garage and yell at people as they park their car. Sounds like a super engaging day. But she doesn't want to be sitting here arguing with Karen for much longer. So Kim does her lawyer talk, which if I was the Karen would freak me out a little bit. I'm not trying to get wrapped up in some stupid lawsuit, especially against a lawyer. Usually in a lawsuit, the saying is nobody wins because everyone's got to pay for the lawyers. You know, everyone's got to go through that. But if Kim is a lawyer, then it's not like she's going through anything she's not used to. Jokes aside, though, the Karen just decides that that doesn't mean anything to her and starts yelling at Kim that she doesn't know who she thinks she is, but I am not gonna listen to you. And Kim just tries to nicely remind her, like, look, if you just leave me alone, there'll be no problems. But if you keep trying to follow me to my car and follow me on elevators and yell at me, we're gonna have an issue. And she just goes about, I don't care. I'm not going to listen to you. I've lived in this building longer than you. I don't think that matters. If you continue to harass somebody and they report it and like the cops show up and you say, well, I've lived here a long time. I don't know if that's going to do anything, but regardless, the next day, Kim comes outside to get in her car to go to work, and somebody, I wonder who possibly would have done this, has put paint all over her windshield to the point where she can't even see. And most people would probably be pissed in this situation, but she just let out a sigh and went to the office and was like, "Can I see the security footage?" And sure enough, Karen had just gone ahead and dumped paint all over the windshield. Didn't even wear a disguise. Like what, you were too angry to remember that security cameras existed? That's a guaranteed way to get yourself caught. I'm not saying you should ever dump paint on a windshield, right? Like just don't do it. Ruining someone's windshield is horrible. But if you're going to dump paint all over someone's windshield in a very surveilled area, you might want to like wear a Halloween mask or a hoodie. You don't want to wear a name tag that has like your blood type on it. That just seems like a very stupid way to get away with anything. So Kim calls the cops, and her entire plan isn't necessarily to like cause some giant issue and have Karen arrested, but rather just to have her cited and then like have legal proof that she needs to pay her back for the repairs. Someone needs to come out and go, "Wow, you dumped paint on the car, you have to pay for it." That's just the way the world works. So she calls and they show up. And they start trying to figure out what's going on, and Kim's explaining it to them. So they go and they get the Karen, and Karen comes down, and they kind of separate them, but she can still hear her because she's yelling. And she's not apologetic at all. You would think when the cops show up and they're like, "Did you put paint on this windshield? This is a crime." You would go, "Oh my gosh, it was the heat of the moment. I'm so sorry." "Yeah, I put paint on the windshield, and I would do it again." And the cops are standing there flabbergasted, like, "So you're admitting that you dumped paint all over the windshield?" "Yeah, and I'm proud of it." And so the cops come back to Kim, and they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And she says she doesn't want to press charges or do anything like that. She just wants the Karen to pay for it, which is fair. But Karen is overhearing this conversation and doesn't want to give the money and starts being like, "I'm not going to give you the money for this stupid issue just because you're a loser who can't afford to fix your windshield." Well, she wouldn't have to be fixing her windshield if you hadn't decided to go dump paint all over it, Karen. And so the cops are like, "Well, we can either have a system where you pay for it, or she can like send you to jail right now. She's got enough to say that you like vandalized her property, destruction of property. You're not apologetic. You're kind of seeming like you're following her around a little bit." And Kim once again is like, "I don't want to do that. Just pay to fix the windshield." She had to get the windshield fixed. You can't really drive with paint on it. She didn't want this Karen's life ruined. But Karen kept being like, "I'm not going to pay for this. I'm not going to do it." And the cops are like, "Dude, please just pay for it." Literally telling her that if you just say that you're going to pay for the windshield, we can leave. If you don't, we're going to have to do something about it. And Karen finally is like, "I don't care. She deserved it. I'm not going to pay for anything. Even if you get bailed out, like, do you really want to spend the night in jail for this? Do you really want to do that? And plus, you destroyed someone's windshield. You were gonna have to pay for that. Did you really think there was a world where you were gonna destroy this property and Kim was gonna come outside and be like, someone destroyed my windshield. Gee, that sure is not swell. Darn it." Like, no, of course they were going to try to figure out who did it and have them pay for it. If you destroy someone's property because you're mad, it's just vandalism. And after a few more minutes of back and forth, finally the cops are like, "All right, turn around, put your hands behind your back." And she's like, "For what? What is the meaning of this?" And they're like, "For the vandalism." And Karen has the audacity to go, "I didn't vandalize anything." Keep in mind, she had just been saying, "Yeah, I poured paint on the car and I don't care. I don't regret it." Like, I don't know, man. I feel like that might be a little bit of a problem when you then say that you had nothing to do with the vandalism. And so the cops are like, "Well, you admitted it." "Well, I hurt her car, but that's not vandalism." I actually think it is, though. Just because you don't want to call it that doesn't mean that that's not what it was. So whatever, the Karen gets taken away for that night. She ends up like bailing out and says she's gonna pay for the windshield and whatnot. And I'm sure that sucked, but at the same time, it's like you literally gave them no choice. They kept telling you, "Please do not make us have to do this." And you kept being like, "I don't care. It wasn't vandalism. She sucks." And of course, after getting taken away, she comes back and is like, "I'll pay for it." Kim agrees to drop the charges, but she has to pay. I would just love to know how long it took from Karen getting in the back of the car, getting to where they were taking her, getting there, sitting there, and realizing, crap, I should have just paid for it. Like, what am I doing? Why did I do this to myself? I would love to know when that, like, mental switch flipped and it was like, crap, now I'm sitting in jail because I broke someone's windshield and just didn't want to pay for it. And the real benefit out of all of this is the fact that after it, like, Karen just completely avoids Kim now. Before, you know, she's head of the HOA, Miss I'm better than everybody, you have to read this 70-page ebook before you can even move in. She got removed from being head of the HOA after this, because I'm sure the HOA was like, yeah, it's not a good look for us to be attacking and vandalizing cars in the parking lot. Whether it's like embarrassment, fear, shame of not being in charge of the HOA, it doesn't really matter because Kim's car is no longer being covered in paint in the parking lot. And keep in mind, Kim never wanted any of this. It's not like she moved into the building being like, I have beef. The beef is huge, the beef is unlimited, and it's gonna be for everybody. She's literally just trying to move into her apartment, and Karen is like, I will attack you and destroy your car. And before anyone's like, yo, Kim snitched, if someone destroys your car, your hands are just kind of tied. I mean, when she sent this into me in the email, she's like, I kind of feel like a snitch. You shouldn't. If someone destroys your car, it's like, dude, I have to get this paid for. You know, that's not somebody being like, oh man, I'm speeding, and you call Crime Stoppers, someone's going 5 over the speed limit. This is literally the definition of like, dude, I have to get to work, and you took away my ability to easily get to work. You know, I don't think you can go to the mechanic with damage done to your car and say, well, I understand that it usually costs $450, but someone was really mean to me, so how about you just go ahead and do it for free? The real world, unfortunately, does not like that and does not look at things like that. And Kim didn't go around the building telling everybody about it or anything. It's not like she started this huge rumor that Karen was a nut, but people just kind of started to find out about it. And it's not like Karen was out bragging about it either. She's not rolling around telling everyone, I destroyed the neighbor's car, isn't that cool? Either way, moral of the story is don't just attack people's cars for no reason. I don't think any of you guys were going to do that in the first place, but apparently some people out there need to get the memo. Ah, man, some people just love to have beef with people that don't have beef with them. And chances are, if you just have some weird grudge against somebody for no reason, that it's not going to go well for you because that person's going to act completely rationally because they don't have some weird anger against you. Even if you didn't get caught, Karen, still weird to just have random beef with somebody that you don't know to the point where you're willing to just go out and destroy their property. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to press the like button. It really helps the video do better, helps it hit recommended. I haven't had the best luck hitting recommended lately, so if you could like and comment, I would appreciate it. Other than that, if you really want to help me out, I do post these story times, as podcast audios on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to them. So feel free to check that out. There's a link down below. And you're more than welcome to check out the merch. If you scroll down, there's a little shelf with like all my merch on it. Feel free to find something you like and get it. I give you permission. Yeah, that's right. I give you permission to give me money. All jokes aside, though, thank you guys all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.